Well, hello there, friends, and welcome to Strangers in the Night, your source for late night VR gaming talk. I, of course, am your host, Wes. With me, as always, are my good friends. What's up, Eric?
What's up, fellas?
How you doing, man? Did you catch a breath today, man, or have you just been sprinting the whole time?
It's always a fucking sprint, man. It's always a sprint. I got out of the headset, my alarm went off 15 minutes before 12 o'clock so I could get ready.
Wow.
That's what I told Ruuts. I found out about you this week. Is you literally don't stop ever.
Nope, I'll stop when I'm dead.
In 50
Well,
years.
don't say that.
Yeah.
I know. Right?
I have to throw the logic out there. You ain't dying for a long time, bro.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Ruuts, how's your Wednesday been treating you?
Pretty good actually. I got into some VR today, and I guess a little spoiler alert. Most of my VR was the racing game. I can't get enough of it.
Yeah. I figured that. And of course, our special guest and resident hardware expert, Brad. Thanks for staying up late with us tonight.
No problem. I'm tired, but I'm always tired, so it's okay.
Are you a night owl, Brad? I don't even know. Are you like a somebody who stays up all
I
night?
am. Usually I am. Except past couple days I was opposite. But yeah, usually I am for sure.
That I can never get a read on you, Brad, because I know sometimes I'll see you like at like 2 a.m. Okay, so Brad stays up late like me, and then I'll see you sometimes posting at like 7 a.m. and 8 a.m. So I'm like, dude, does he ever sleep? But then I realized, well, he's probably like me and doesn't sleep, just gets it in where he can, right?
Have you heard of biphasic sleeping?
No, but that sounds like a nice fancy word.
Yeah.
To describe what I
do. It's basically
do.
like you split up sleep cycles.
Ooh.
So I usually sleep like 2 4-hour periods a day. It's like two long naps basically instead of like one extended thing. So my schedule's like usually like that. It's weird.
I'm doing that now. I just call it life.
I have
But mine are like more like 2-hour naps.
Why even sleep?
Exactly.
What a waste, man. Don't sleep. It's
Mine is triphasic sleeping because I come home from work and I try to play VR, but I end up just falling asleep in my chair here. And then I wake up from that and answer emails and comments. And then I crawl in my bed for about an hour to 2 hours. And then I get up and do some stuff that I have to do. And then I lay back down about an hour before I got to go to work. And that's typically how my days go until one day I just collapse for like a whole day.
I'm exhausted just hearing you talk about that. That sounds tiring.
Yeah, I'm not very good at managing my time. I need to get better with it.
I think I'm the only one that sleeps somewhat normal, and I don't even have that normal. I stay up pretty late, but I mean, I don't know. I'm a morning person anyway. I could get 2 hours of sleep. I'm still going to wake up normally in a good mood. Normally.
Though, here lately, I've been choosing to play VR instead of sleep. Instead of just doing like work in front of the computer, we've actually had games to play this week. So like literally, I've just been choosing to have fun instead of sleep, and no regrets, bro. No regrets. I've been having a blast and barely scratched the surface of our library.
How are you keeping your family off? Like at bay? Like I'm sure your kids, your wife are like, I want to play, and you're like, this is my horizon time, damn it, get out. And then your wife puts her hand out and you give it to her, and then she takes her turn, and then you get to go. That's how it works.
Lock them out of your room.
Yeah.
Isabel's, well, I mean, they have a console in the next room, and that's kind of the cool thing about having this PlayStation VR with the one cable. Like literally, you can just unplug it out of this one and plug it in that one in there, and they're good to go.
What a good cable, right? Speaking of positive news on the PlayStation, that's a really, I was surprised at how sturdy and good. Everyone was so worried about that cable. For a USB-C cable, that's pretty freaking sturdy, and it's good cable. I like it.
Yeah, it has done the job thus far.
Right.
But no, they just get it in when I'm not. And wife hasn't played it that much. She just did her initial session in Horizon earlier today, right after I finished it. She jumped in it and tried it out.
I got my roommate in there yesterday, and I think he had Brad's experience because he was in there for about 5 minutes, and then all of a sudden he took the headset off, and he was like, it was cool, and he left. Yeah, And like I was
see
psyched
that.
to show him GT. He was a real racing fan. He didn't even stick around for the racing. He was fucking out, bro. So
He's like, I ain't doing that.
he didn't say anything about being sick, but I guarantee if I said when I actually do talk to him, and that's what he's gonna say, he didn't feel right or something because he got out so quick.
Are you sure that the fucking 10-minute intro didn't drive him away?
Oh my god.
Well, he started
mandatory
out.
10-minute intro.
He started going, wow, I can't. This is like they really stepped up the game for because he had the PlayStation VR 1, and then he just stopped talking altogether, and then he just took the headset off and handed it to me. So I'm 99%
finally got the
sure.
science about it, so we're good to talk about that later for sure. Whew.
Yeah,
That's
we
what we're
will
worried
get
about.
to that. We're gonna try to hit all the pluses and the minuses and kind of put this thing to bed once and for all because it's starting to become a tired topic at this point. But we have had more time in the headset now, just enough to kind of confirm some previous assumptions that we've had. So we're gonna kind of try to put it to bed once and for all here in just a few minutes. But first, we need to say hello to our friends in chat because they also are kind enough to stay up late with us tonight. And I see some regulars and I see some not so regulars. So nice little crowd we got going on so far. Fluke Rogi is here. What's up, Fluke? Jay Foray said, I originally thought PSVR 2 was blurry, but it was low-res Quest 2 textures in Star Wars. Really? That's interesting.
I have not played that yet, but Skiva was raving about it. So
Yeah.
A lot of people have been.
Yeah, that's kind of the first time I've heard someone say something like that about it. Tribe's in the chat. What up, Tribe? He says, woo. What's up, man? Guido's here. Mal. What's up, Mal? Maddie Freedom says, you have to be kidding. I don't know what Maddie's talking about.
no, we're not kidding,
Probably
man.
are.
We're totally serious about what we don't know. I don't know.
Gecko Man 11 is here. The Game Cat. Wolvraza is here. Time to play PlayStation VR 2 is here. Twitch VR. Oh, I know what they're talking about. They're talking about this cable replacement.
Half the price.
$275. Yeah,
Yikes.
to have Sony replace that cable.
That's
Don't
crazy.
don't
That is
screw your
so stupid.
cable up. Well, okay, so
kidding.
this is my question. What did they do to it? Because this is a brand new headset, and something tells me if you're having to pay half the price of the console, you fucked up somehow. You didn't. It's not just some oops, like the cable broke off. Like you literally did something really bizarre to it. Is my guess.
Yeah,
I gotta tell you, I'm a little worried. I was a little worried with it too, especially with my setup.
Really?
I can tell you what
Because I have a Kiwi
Oh.
system and I have it right above my head, and so it's taut down to the back of my head because I don't want to get it wrapped around me. The problem is when I spin, the cable starts to twist, and if it kinks enough around where that plugs in, I may have issues. Like I've looked a couple of times at it, and I've had to like pull on the cord to like get it to like, you know, when you get a cord that like is wrapped up tight and you kind of let it go and it like spins and loosens up. I had to do that a couple of times, so I'm a little bit worried.
Don't play airplane in your VR space and just spin
Yeah, right.
around.
it's a good idea. You've been having, well, never mind. I was about to jump right into the conversation with Brad. We'll get your
One thing
opinion
about
on the cable.
Yeah,
Go.
I've been watching people try to already. They're not like doing it, but they're exploring all the possibilities of making it work for PCVR. And
I
even
think it's going to happen. I really do.
I think it will. It's gonna take a lot of work, but they're able to like access stuff like the chip on board and like get reprojection working for like a theater mode type thing for PC. And I think from what I've seen, it might be it's called a display link cable. You might remember in like the 20 series NVIDIA, there was like a special USB-C port that basically died. No one used it. The Index was gonna launch with a tether replacement for it. Yeah, it might be that kind of cable for the PS5 because the AMD APU in that should actually support virtual link as well. So it's a very specialized cable for pretty much a dead standard. So
Yeah, that's interesting. That would be interesting if it were just a vanilla display display link, right? Because I mean, you
Or it's
assume
just-
that I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's not Display Link or DisplayPort. It's Virtual Links, which is like a
Virtual
again,
Link. That's
very,
what I meant.
very specialized. But yeah.
That's what I remember. I remember this. Nobody used it, right? They put it in the
NVIDIA graphics
in
card.
one. It wasn't just AMD. I think NVIDIA had some too.
NVIDIA had it, but it was like one series.
It was just the
Right.
2000 series. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mine
right.
has
Cut
it.
it. Yep. Mine didn't. It was weird. And now all of them did because my MSI didn't have it on there.
But if Sony uses something like that, you would think that they would at least tweak it enough and make it proprietary. But from the sounds of it, I mean, not much about this headset so far has turned out to be proprietary. It's all seems to be pretty straightforward stuff. That's the reason why my attitude is changing toward the possibility that the PC guys are going to be able to crack this because everything seems to be, at least thus far, easier than they thought it was going to be.
Do you think it's by design? Do you think they plan on using it for the PC down the line? Maybe.
How many more
Possibly.
headsets do you think they're going to sell? If they crack this thing and it's fairly easy to do, how many
I
PC
guarantee
players?
you.
How many PC players would turn around?
How
and
many
get it?
PC players that have shit all over it would run out and buy
Here's
it?
This is the best thing ever. Now.
This is the best thing ever now.
This is the best headset ever. Big screen where? Big screen beyond where? I'm
Has
going
that
to
been
get PlayStation.
happening? I haven't been watching much of that. Has that been like a serious topic among PCVR?
Not really.
No.
Oh,
But it will if
sorry.
they ever crack it though. It'll be bedlam. It'll be crazy if they do.
Well, let me ask you this, Brad.
Mhm.
Let's assume for a moment that this is a virtual link system that they've got going on here. If that's true, would people be able to like use a different standard, like a regular display port via USB-C, or would theoretically the only PC people that would be able to use this, if they were to crack it, would be people that have a virtual link graphics card?
I think it depends on the modder, how they kind of set it up, because there's actually virtual link to DisplayPort adapters, so they might go that route instead of like, focusing on the limited amount of people that have a virtual link port on their system. And those adapters, by the way, I think Vario sells an adapter for that, and it's like also $200 or something. So it's
well, I mean,
it's wild.
even beyond like the porting or the modding porting implications of it, like Eric just had asked, well, maybe this is because Sony plans to bring it to PC. If this is a standard virtual link, it probably would indicate just the opposite, right? Because not that many people have that kind of hardware. It's not a universal thing.
I think it's more the fact that consoles are so close to the PC architecture that it's why that the PSVR 2 uses something that would seemingly work on a PC. Because I mean, the Xbox Series X, the PS5, they're both basically like locked PCs, basically. Like their architecture, their x86 and everything, they're using AMD. So
If I was able to use this on a PC, do you think I could get it like with my 3080 Ti super clear clarity? Probably pretty good, huh?
Well, we're jumping ahead.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in just a few minutes because Twitch VR is here, as well as Tatum. What's up, Tatum? Third Eye, Triple O is here. Spry Guy is here. Happy birthday, Spry. Good to see you. Spry Guy says the question is, did Wes have enough time to set up his wheel for GT7? I did. It's plugged in right now to my PlayStation. Although I didn't have like the power cord on the thing's really short. So I brought it right next to my PlayStation and didn't have a place where I could plug it in at. So I moved it literally across my room and just took my old USB extension that I used to use back when I was playing Link, Oculus Link way back when, and used it to hook my wheel up across the room, and it's working well.
That's good.
Old Darth, the PSVR 2 yet GameCat, or no PSVR 2 yet GameCat. Oh, that's sad to hear.
That is sad, but
Sorry.
he's got doesn't he have a different headset he just got a while ago? Maybe it was somebody else. No, that was Artful. Never mind.
Rogue TR is here. Who else? Mr. Lord Beavis is here. Chris Duncan, hello. Demonic Waffles, back again. Good to see you. Wifey, what's up, wife? Hi. VG Junkie is here. Any of you guys have any thoughts on the Mira? Yep, we're going to talk about the Mira. Just hang tight. Okay, I thought I was done here for a moment, but now I see Roy Schwartz is here. Always good to see Roy Schwartz. Tech Infusion says, morning, chaps. Morning. Diego Darko VR is here.
That is fake news. Old Darth does have a PSVR 2 now, but he can't change his name. Won't let him yet.
Oh, I got you. Gabriel 004, the license to meow Gamecat. Hello. Hello, Mal. Hello, Boognish66. Hello, Flamehat the Gamecat. Hello, Four Willin. And hello, Virtual Steve. Hello, Radio Ryan. And that is everyone that I saw.
Black Magic 82 just slid in. And Mike Newton. What's up? Evening peeps.
Hello, hello,
Nice.
hello. Tip of the hat to all of you.
All the cool people.
Yeah. Thanks for staying up late or getting up early, wherever you may be. We very much appreciate it. Let's get into some VR talk, and let's go ahead and just get right into the hardware, because obviously this is what people want to know about, and people want us to just deep dive and tear this thing apart and talk about all the bullshit. But I'm not going to do that. I'm at least not going to start off by doing that. And instead, I'm going to ask an interesting question to think about. A simple question, a place we often start, but kind of interesting in this context. And Eric, I just want to ask you, a week in, how has this headset lived up to your expectations?
Jeez, that's a loaded question. That's a loaded question. Thanks for throwing me on that one. It has not lived up to every expectations I've had. There are some shortcomings I did not think were going to be there that are there. It is not the end-all to be-all headset that some people thought it was going to be. I did not think it was going to be that either, but for me, I'm still having more fun in this headset than with these games than I have in 6 to 8 months with most of the games I played. Like, literally, I love games, and I'll find fun with whatever game I'm playing. I'll find something, whether it's Mother Gunship Forge or whatever. I don't have to have the best game to play to have fun. I'll find fun somewhere. But I found myself over the last 6 months having to find reasons to go find those games to have fun in. And here I don't even have to find a reason. All I'm thinking about is what I want to jump into next. And it's like one game after the next, I go, man, that's all I want to play. Like, for days, it was just GT7. And I'm like, when I'm thinking about VR, when I'm not playing VR, and that's all I'm thinking about, I'm pretty enamored with something like that. And then all of a sudden, because I was trying to finish Horizon Call of the Mountain, that became all I wanted to play because it's so damn good. So when I have these things over several games, that's something special, and I don't get a chance to say that all the time. So this is definitely a flawed headset. There are problems here that are not great, but it's still the best VR experience I probably have ever had. With the games included. When we're talking about a package, you know what I mean? No, that's what it is. I mean, if the headset had no good games or the games were mediocre, then it would be a big problem. But the games are so good that I will overlook some of the minor problems that are here. And it's still, even with those minor problems, it's one of the best headsets I've ever put on still.
Yeah. And I've never tried like a Vario out, but my experience is every headset I've ever tried has had pluses and minuses. And I wouldn't say that there's any more minuses with this one than there have been with the others. It's just there's different stuff. And on top of that, there are new features that we haven't seen in consumer hardware yet, which again, we'll list and deep dive on in a moment. Ruuts, the past week for me has felt very, very similar to my first days in VR. I've just been having that much fun. and really don't know what. Like Eric said, there's so many great games to play now. I don't know which one I want to go to next.
I do. I want to go, but it doesn't come out for 15 more days.
There you go. Do you think that the shiny's going to wear off of this thing anytime soon, or do you think that the honeymoon phase might go on at least through the holiday?
Which holiday did you all the way to Christmas? Hell no.
Memorial Day. 6 weeks.
Yeah, 6 weeks maybe. I don't think the honeymoon's over, but I mean for me it hasn't lost its shine. I mean, it's just as shiny as it has been. For me, the biggest thing is remembering ease of use that I used to think the Quest 2 had. And it doesn't matter whether it's PC or Quest, there's so many issues with it all the way around, and so we can look at the shortcomings of the PSVR 2, but like you said, everything has. I still have issues with my Rift S having to unplug and plug that fucking USB in every other time. So like, there's every headset, there's always been something that drives me fucking crazy. And I would say this PlayStation VR 2 is actually less of that, even especially since I took the gamer tag video to heart, and I readjusted my headset a little bit, and I was like, wow, I did get rid of the probably 99% of any blurriness, that weirdness, and mine was a side-to-side issue. We adjust our headset on perfect, but I just had to turn it a little bit to the side, and then it was perfect. So
it's funny that you say that. When I was on Without Parole earlier today, Brian Paul said the exact same thing.
Really?
His hadn't been on perfectly straight. It wasn't an up and down thing, but it was a left and right thing.
Yeah, literally, I just noticed something was a little bit blurry once I pushed it to the side a little bit. I said, oh my God, I didn't even realize or think that. You just think that there's no way that thing can be off a little bit to the side, but it was. And it did make a big difference. And it does show you that the sweet spot is a little bit smaller than I thought, but I was able to fine tune it in and had a good experience. I don't know. I'm enjoying the hell out of it. And actually, this is a good time because I didn't formally tell everybody thank you, because like the patrons paid for most of my headset, and Eric stepped up and paid for a chunk of it, and so did Guido. So all of you, everybody, I appreciate it, because literally if it wasn't for everybody that did that, even the ones that didn't know they were doing that when they supported patrons or Patreon, I wouldn't have a headset, because I just right now financially I don't have the money for a headset. So I really appreciate it, and you guys are awesome.
I'll point out that Eric and Guido are both patrons. So
well, there you go.
So yeah, we've kind of alluded to this over the last month or so. I've told you guys that your donations have really done a lot for us and allowed us to do things that we typically wouldn't do. And this is one of the big things I was talking about, is Ruuts had some fairly significant life changes that was going to make it so that he couldn't get this headset after all this time waiting on it. He wasn't going to be able to get it, but he was able to get it thanks to your support. So shout out to everyone who donates on YouTube. And again, it's not just the patrons either. It's the people who donate everything on YouTube, people who send to PayPal, people who, all of it. You guys saved Ruuts for this generation, and we very much appreciate it.
Yeah, it makes me, I love my headset that much more. I feel like my headset is like Eric's Pro. It's like, because you feel, when you have something that you really love, that you didn't have to really pay out of pocket for much of, you appreciate it. At least I do, so that's super cool.
So shout out to our awesome community.
Yeah, I was gonna say, so go join the patronage. Be a patron of the show. It's super easy to do. I'm even a patron. I'm on the show and I'm a patron.
I know, that's
crazy. How good this show is.
That is a good point. Brad, PSVR 2, a weekend now, and I know you've spent a little more time assessing and maybe a little less time playing than we have. Meets expectations overall. Meets expectations. Surpasses expectations. Does not meet expectations. Where would you grade this?
So, different aspects of the device. exceed expectations, and some aspects of the device under deliver on expectations. The GT did a really good video. I think it was posted earlier this morning our time, but the best part of the headset for me is just the haptics in general. Like, I go back and forth between using this headset and then going to like VR chat or something in my index, and like everything feels, the experience feels so much more muted going to these other headsets because of not having all those like those haptics just work. And even like the you know in VR chat with the index, you can pat people and you'll feel like a basic vibration, but it's just not, it doesn't cut it anymore once you try like all the headset haptics and stuff. So that aspect for me, I definitely my favorite part of the headset. But I'm having issues. I definitely alluded to this a lot on my Twitter, but like I've been having issues with a lot of motion sickness that I've been doing VR for 7 years and I haven't had motion sickness in 7 years. So my week has been jumping in and out of this headset, trying to figure out what issue is causing this. Not really because I want to nitpick, but if I can figure out the issue, I can report it and help people solve it for themselves. And I think I've finally got the objective science behind what's going on there and how to sort of solve it for me, and it's worked a bit actually. We can talk about it whenever, but yeah, it's been okay.
Well, we're getting into two different things here, and you started with the haptics, so why don't we just start with the haptics, and then we'll move on to display after that. You know, Brad, coming out of CES, and we're going to kind of touch on Horizon here briefly. We were a bit worried, even with that game, that the haptics wouldn't be used to their fullest potential, because in that demo we played, it really just felt like a lot of just basic usage of something that's capable of so much more. Specifically with that game, I feel like they've got it dialed in pretty good now. Like, it wasn't like super buzzy like it was in CES, and most of the titles that I've played, that's been the case. There have been very unique tactile sensations depending on how you're using your hands, and that's not even to consider what the headset's been doing. Would you agree with that? Did you notice that the haptics are more refined now than they were during our demo?
Yeah, I would say Horizon's been the game I've been spending the most time in. We'll talk about that more later, but I really actually like the game, which is why it's so painful. I get sick. But no, like, yeah, it's they. I mean, the controller haptics are already great, but for me, like, the head haptics, every time those head haptics go off, like, it's been a wow moment every time. Like, they really know how to get the most out of that and it's just such a small thing, you know. It's such a small thing, having a little vibration in the head pad, one little motor, and it just, gosh, I really love it. I really love the feature, and yeah, the developers have shown a lot of care in not throwing it all the time, like it felt like at CES, because that was what I was worried about. It felt like they were just buzzing it like some sort of a Hitachi wand or something. But yeah, it's good. It's very good.
It was like a bug zapper, you know, one of those purple ones. That's what it felt like.
Yeah.
Ruuts, I happen to agree with what Brad initially said there. I feel like this aspect of the headset has been, as far as the hardware goes, has been probably the most profound change versus VR, what VR was before. For me, just this whole range of tactile sensations that they're able to get across through the controllers in tandem with the headset has really been a game changer for me. And specifically, but not exclusively, when we're talking about these ports, these games that we were not excited at all about coming to the library. Now they're like all new titles. Now, of course, don't take that wrong if you're watching out there. They're not literally all new, which some of them are, but it is a brand new experience. I think that's a fair assessment. What do you think about the haptics? What kind of a difference has this made for you when you're playing?
Makes a big difference, especially in shooter games. I've said in Light Brigade, first time I got shot in the head, I mean, it made me realize, fuck, man, I got shot in the head, bro. Like, that's the worst place to get shot. And I assumed there was a lot of damage involved as well, because I died pretty quickly after. But no, Tetris Effect, like all these games that you just wouldn't think any vibration on your head would make a difference, it actually does. And I think it just shows you that there's a lot more going on to immersion than just the game. Like, everything has to line up. That's why I thought Tetris Effect was so amazing. The original is like how everything worked together, and the vibrations, the music, the gameplay, it was like magical, is I think the words I used. And it's even better with the PlayStation VR 2, which is, I don't even know how that's possible, but it is. And it's just Tetris in VR. So.
Right, it's just Tetris.
It's just Tetris.
Eric, when I first picked up these controllers, I was a little bit worried because they're kind of light, and you feel like that, holding something that doesn't have so much weight, that they're not going to have the same, or you feel like maybe they won't have the same kind of I don't know, intensity with regards to the kind of vibrations that they can do, and that has been the case. I mean, they can get across a wide range of different sensations, but none of it is especially deep like an old vibration would be. What they've done, though, that kind of negates that, or even improves upon it, is the headset. Now is where you're getting that kind of low frequency rumble at. So now you've got these unique sensations in your hands, but it also works in tandem with what you're feeling on your face and in your head. It really is a very unique, something that's very unique to this platform, and well, I guess maybe the most unique feature with regard to this platform. What kind of a difference have the haptics made for you?
They're pretty big. I love them. I mean, it makes a huge difference. Like, I think I was talking to Ruuts, or maybe we were all talking together, but like in the Light Brigade, it makes such a difference to me because when you get shot, it's a shock to you because your head vibrates so much that it almost gives you it like shocks you. Like it scares you almost, because when you get hit, you're not used to that feeling, right? If you get hit, you see like a marker on screen turns red for a minute, or you get some kind of notification. When you get a physical feedback when you get hit, and then especially when you get hit in that game, if you get hit too much, your whole like vision changes because you're almost dead and your vision turns like grayish. So when that happens to you with haptics, it's a big part of the game. Same thing with driving. Same thing, with in Call of the Mountain, when you have a huge one of these huge mechanical dinosaurs that is like stomping around and you can feel it in your headset. The tactile feedback there is something that I've never experienced. I was not a person who got into haptics, the B haptics, face haptics. Now I know that Alex VR talked about them all the time and said it was one of the best parts of B haptics was, forget about the vest, forget about like the gauntlets. He always said that the face haptics was one of the best things about B haptics. And now I 100% believe him. And like I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't get into it earlier. But I'm so happy we have it now. I love it. And you're right. The controllers, they are light, man. They are like, they feel light, like, but because there's no battery in them too, remember, you know what I mean? So you're expecting to have 2 AA batteries, or at least one AA battery, and that's not there. But there's a difference between light and like cheesy. Like Nolo makes a headset that is basically a copy or clone of the Quest 2. But the controllers are so light and cheesy on that one, you can just tell it's like cheap. This is not. You can just tell it's well made, but it is light. It's super light.
What a weird fucking design, though, man. Like,
it is.
When I go to grab my controllers, it is so weird to try to find how to fit my hands in there unless I'm looking at it. I'm like, how? I'm flipping
Once you
this thing
have
over and over. I'm like, what is happening here? It's just
But
such a
once you
weird.
have it, though, like I'm in the same as you, Roots. I have a tough time getting my hands in there.
It's
'cause
weird,
I always
man.
try and put. I tried to put it on the wrong hand. Like you can't even tell. Like even when you're looking at it, sometimes you can't tell which way. But when it's like this in your hand, it feels perfect. It feels exactly the way the index controllers feel. Like I love the index controllers. Sometimes the grip button the sensitive contextual grip bothers me and not having a grip button. But other than that, I love the way the index controllers feel. And this is the way that feels with that ring on it. But yeah, it just feels right when you have it in your hand. But yeah, they're super weird.
Soundbite heaven, guys. Thank you so
What did I
much
say?
for
Feels right when you have it in your hand.
feels
Yeah,
right when you have it in your hand.
know-
It's hard to find which hole's the right one. Like you guys are awesome.
Yeah.
Flip it.
There you go. Controller form factor, Brad. Right, any kind of issues for you? Is it hard for you to get used to, or did you adapt pretty quickly?
I do agree. It's hard for me to like, but I'm so used to not ever using pass through on any headset to like look for controllers or whatever. But like with this one, I always have to press the button. Otherwise, I'm putting the wrong hand in the wrong.
How
controller or
awesome is that
whatever.
button though, man? Like so easy to be in and out, and it makes sense. It's cool.
Yeah, it works. It's something I need to like get into habit. Yeah, the controller's fine. I again, it's all about the haptics for me for a lot of this hardware stuff. Grip button sucks. Hate it.
Yeah,
But-
that takes some getting used to. I've dropped a few guns over the last week. I'm getting better with it, but it's less clicky than the other controllers that I've used. So it's just more of getting used to just kind of squeezing the grip rather than looking for the button. Still having issues with it, but not so much as I was last week when we were talking about it.
I still wish. I mean, I really want controllers strapped to my hand. Like this feels so. This feels like something that should be strapped to my hand already. Like the index controller. Like I love that, and I don't even know if I'll be able to get an accessory to do that. But I always love the
I
ability
heard
to
somebody.
do that. But, yeah.
I heard there was a mod out there that
Somebody
isn't
was
perfect, but it works. Yeah.
The USB. One more complaint. Well, it's a minor complaint. They put the USB-C port in such a weird place. Like if you don't have like the charging dock, like it's always feels like it's gonna break your USB-C cable because it's
Yeah.
like bending. Like it's a little weird. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, yeah, I've noticed that too because I didn't get the charging dock either. I've been plugging them in, and I told wife earlier like I don't mind plugging them in. It's fine, and I haven't had any trouble with the battery the battery life. Like it's lasted just long enough to let me get my sessions in. But plugging that thing in, I'm like I've got to get the charging dock because I'm afraid I'm going to break my ports if I keep doing this. And yeah, so I think we're going to have to go ahead and bite the bullet and buy one of those.
Yeah, it's much more simple to just throw them. I mean, I've got one for my other PS5 controllers, and it's so easy to charge. So.
Eric, you play a lot of shooters, just as I do. Have you gotten into many this week? And if so, have the controllers, the weird shape of the controllers, interfered with that at all?
Not so far. I mean, I'm having a little issue with Light Brigade where I lose control of the gun from my right hand. So I don't know what it is. It doesn't happen all the time. It's just every once in a while. Like I can always grip the front of the gun, no problem. But it's when I'm here, and I don't know if it's because I'm getting too close to the headset and I'm getting underneath the camera, and it loses it for a second because then it kind of floats away from me. The stock of the gun will float away from me, and I have to re-grip it to grab it. And it's happened, it'll happen a few times in a run, and sometimes I get away from it too much. But I mean, there's small issues. I haven't had any issues really. I mean, there's been a couple of tracking issues where you can just tell it's not maybe as dialed in as say like the Quest 2 tracking, but it's still pretty damn good. I love the adaptive triggers so much. I played After the Fall, and so if anybody knows, watch me play After the Fall. One of my favorite loadouts is the service pistol. I do dual service pistols, tricked out as much as I can get them. 9mm service pistols, but you have to manually shoot those, and you shoot them fast. The problem with those adaptive triggers, it's not an easy trigger pull. So by the time I get through like a couple of, like 20 minutes into a round or 30 minutes into a round, my fingers are tired, man.
You're gonna have
It's
some
tough. I mean,
strong fingers, dude.
no,
If you keep it
seriously.
up, bro.
Yeah, but it just feels so good to have like tension on the pull, and then like you feel that when you get that big LMG and you pull that first little tiny bit of pull, and all of a sudden you click all the way through it, and it just lights them up. It's just real satisfying.
That's interesting that you mentioned that, because I hadn't even thought about shooting my LMG in this thing. We got to get into that game this week.
Cool. Yes,
guys.
I was in there. I got in there with Betty and Guido. Was it Guido? Or no, it was Mickey Burke.
Wait a minute. Wait. How do you already have a fucking LMG? Did somebody gifted you that gun? Didn't
Well, maybe Betty brought me in a couple of weapons.
they? Cheater! You're a cheater.
I got to tell you this too. I don't want to get off track too much. The new maps. There's 2 new maps.
Yeah.
Damn, they're good. They're probably the 2 best maps of the whole game, and they're good and they're hard.
Tune in next Wednesday, ladies and gentlemen, as we will, for the 1000th time, be covering After the Fall, and I'm actually excited about it this time.
It looks really good too. It looks really good with the new colors and everything with the OLEDs. Looks good.
So controller tracking, I think we were about to touch on.
Yeah, and I had no issues in that game, by the way. Zero. I had not one issue with controllers with that one. Just seems like just in Light Brigade.
So it's interesting, because I've heard a few people would, repeat this line that not quite as good as Oculus tracking. And, obviously we're just a week in, and I kind of went in with that preconceived notion because I've heard it said so many times at this point that was how it's going to be. But today I was honestly assessing it, and for me, it has been pretty equivalent, about the same as like a Quest tracking or a Rift S tracking. I did have this thing you're talking about a couple of times, Eric, where in the Light Brigade, my hand floated away from me probably twice, maybe 3 times.
Did you shake
just
it?
for a
That's the aim controller. Never mind.
just for a split second. It was notably dark in my play space, and my batteries were low, so maybe that had something to do with it, maybe it didn't. But my point is I've had the same exact thing on Oculus. This isn't something that's just specific to PSVR 2. I've had it happen to me on Oculus as well a number of times. So Ruuts, I ask you, yeah, exactly, how's the tracking been for you? On par with, say, an Oculus, maybe not so good as Oculus? So far, how's it been for you?
I would say pretty much the same thing you said. I've noticed just as many times where I'm going to shoot something and it's a little weird because I'm too close to my headset. But unless you have Quest Pro controllers, you're gonna run into that. So, and I've never had Quest Pro controllers. Every headset I've ever used has done that, because when you go to use it, some are worse and some are better. But I would say that I haven't had any game feel like I've felt like, God dang, like there's sometimes some headsets or certain things where it's a pain in the ass, and you really notice that it's really weird. Your tracking is weird, and I've never felt that with the PlayStation VR 2 so far, with the exceptions of a couple times trying to aim through the sights.
So I think it was a Technoglitch in the chat said, like G2 tracking? No, not exactly. And just for the record, before PSVR 2, G2 was my daily driver. The updated tracking on the newer headset it's pretty good. Like, it's not that bad. But there were a couple of occasions on G2 where I experienced some trouble with controller occlusion, causing me trouble specifically in shooter games with precision, shooting where you can't have any play. That has not been the case with PSVR. So if you want to make the argument that it's not as good as Oculus, maybe that turns out to be true. But I can say definitively that it's better than what I consider to be already pretty good G2 tracking.
Let me ask you this: what was Oculus Quest 2's tracking like on day one? Is it, you know what I mean? Like it has gotten
Probably
better and better and better as time has gone by. That with updates, it's completely better. I mean, I guarantee the tracking was subpar compared to what it was.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of the Oculus updates. They don't seem to be fleshed out so much anymore as they used to be. Brad, I was playing Horizon earlier today, and I was trying to make sure that I finished it early in the day because I wanted to be ready to do a full review discussion of the game tonight. And what that meant for me was during the last level, where I typically, really go slowly and take my time and really take in the game as much as I can. I went through it pretty quickly, the last level, and like all the other levels, there's a ton of climbing in that level. And as I was speed climbing, trying to get through this game, it occurred to me that probably half or more of the time that I was climbing, my controllers were completely out of my view. Like I could not see my hands in the game. They were to my sides. They were down at my waist. They were above my head. Perfect tracking. Like despite, the controllers being in these scenarios where traditionally you would expect the tracking to fail, it was perfect. It was really, really good. Have you been able to put the tracking through its paces and really test it out? And whether that has been the case or not, what has been your experience with the controller tracking specifically?
For me, it's fine. Like it's been, that's the word I would use. Fine. Like it's.
Well, I guess it's notable. I guess we should say it's notable that you're still one of these outside in guys, one of these archaic people who hang things on their wall, right?
I do have 4 lighthouses on my in this room here, so I am one of those users. But for, it's not that I'm against. I think people always expect that lighthouse users are against the idea of inside out camera tracking. Like I get why it's there. It's just not something I prefer. I'm a there's
well, I wasn't trying to shame you.
I only wanted to bring it up because there was a whole argument on Twitter like a few days ago because I posted a clip there. But I mean it's good. Like I think inside out tracking is really hard to do unless you have a lot of resources. Luckily, Sony did not gimp out on that resources for this, so I feel they're pretty close to on par to at least Quest 2 from what I feel. I can't complain too much. It's like everything else for me for that.
And to be honest, it kind of has exceeded my expectations in this department because I really didn't have the highest expectations. I figured it would be pretty good. I thought it might be something on par with G2, but I really didn't expect anyone to get close to Oculus in this regard because up until now, no one has. Like HTC tried it and just completely, it was a train wreck. WMR was bad at first and has gotten steadily better, but really it's only HP that even had any kind of success with it. So I thought Sony would just be more of the same. And apparently so far I've been proven wrong in this respect. So happy to say this, at least in this department, again, we've already talked about triggers and haptics and controller tracking exceeds expectations in all of those departments.
The one thing I do want to note, there has been a few people that would come up to me and say like they've had issues with tracking in general, and every single time I would ask them to send a picture of their room that they're trying to do VR in.
Right.
And they'd be like empty rooms. So if you're like one of those people that have like an empty apartment, you may have issues. But yeah, just hang up some posters or something. So just a disclaimer.
And for what it's worth, and this may not help much with the controller tracking, but if you're having issues with headset tracking, there's actually a setting in the PSVR settings, PSVR 2 settings, that allows you to kind of frame out your television and show the headset. Okay, my TV's here, and they kind of use that as an anchor point for your headset tracking, which
I think it
I haven't
works
tried.
too. I got into Synth Riders with Gamer Chick the other night, and she was having issues on her PlayStation with tracking, and she did that. She went and she turned it on her TV, and the tracking issues she had in there went away. So I think it does have
Nice.
a. It
Did
does
she
work.
kick your ass at Synth Riders? Because I heard she likes
She did,
to
man.
do
She's
that.
like she started and she's like, that's it. I'm getting hot. I got to take my socks off, and then all of a sudden it was over, man. She kicked my ass.
Dude, if she takes her socks off, you're screwed,
over.
dude. That means she's
It's over,
in.
man.
She's in it. She's in it to win it.
Kicked my ass.
Time to play PlayStation VR 2 asks, why would an empty room give you issues? Because the way that these inside-out tracked headsets work is in order to accurately track itself in space, it looks for markers, things that it can point out in your room and say, all right, this is on the right, this thing's on the left, that thing's on the floor, this thing's on the ceiling. And it kind of uses those things to triangulate your location in the room. So if you're a particularly bland person with no personality and have nothing on your walls, I'm just kidding.
Screwed.
I'm just jabbing people. Yeah, it can cause problems with inside out tracking.
Just go hang a red sock on every wall. You'll be good to go.
Or you could paint your wall like Meta always does during these
yeah.
demos and put little dots and shapes all over everything.
Yeah.
Or I guess since it's PlayStation VR, you could put like O's and triangles and crosses.
X's,
And
yeah.
That looked cool, man.
It's kind of funny the whole like they put the marker on your TV if you have tracking issues thing. That's actually really clever, but it's like at the same time, that's like the original Valve VR room where they just had like a mucked up together like smartphone displays with like a camera, and they hung up a bunch of QR codes on the walls. It's almost the same exact thing as that, which is really funny to think about.
Funny to think about a room with QR codes on the walls anyway. I think that would make my phone blow up.
Probably.
But
Make
I have
your
a cheap
wife
phone.
pissed, probably.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so we've been talking about controllers, haptics, and tracking. Check, and check. All exceed expectations. Some of these features have been profoundly game-changing in terms of VR gaming. So why don't we talk about something? Let's break up the love fest here and talk about the elephant in the room, the things that everybody wants to hear us talk about. Let's get into the display, Brad, because this is an interesting thing. We were talking at the top of the episode about how this headset is a mixed bag of great features versus not so great features. And I feel like the display itself is kind of a microcosm for that very same thing, right? Because there are some really great things about the display, but then there's some not so great things, right?
Yeah, so as I was hinting about earlier, I'm gonna talk about. Okay, let's start with the good, since that's what we've been kind of doing.
Yeah.
The display can get really bright, like super bright. I even measured it. I have a little tool here. It's a screen luminance meter, so I can like put it up to the lenses right where the focal point is, and reach what's called nits, how many nits are being delivered to your eye. And if you're running at 100%, this is like the highest brightness headset that is consumer, like released for consumer. It gets like 265 nits, and for reference, the Valve index on 160% gets 160 nits, so that's already like around 100 nits over the Valve index at its highest, 80 to 100. And the Quest Pro and Quest 2 get around 100 nits to the eye. So you're almost like 2.5 times around that, which, you know, HDR, that's how you get HDR. You have a high bit rate of a high bit depth of color, and then you match it with high brightness to allow the colors to pop better. So they are correctly advertising it as a high dynamic range headset. They're doing 10-bit color. They're doing super high brightness that you haven't really seen in a consumer headset before. And I remember hopping into Horizon the first day I got it, you know, at home, hopping it at default 100% brightness, and I was staring up at the sun. And I was like, wow, that actually feels like an immersive experience. It's super bright. This adds a lot to it. And then I would start spending 30 minutes walking around with smooth locomotion, and I felt strange. Something I haven't felt in a very long time, as Obi-Wan Kenobi have said. But but yeah, I started to feel motion sick, and that was. I've been doing VR for 7 years, and I haven't felt motion sick for anything in a very long time. So like for me, that was bizarre. So I just put it up to like as it was a fluke. I put down the headset and I came back to it later. Continued playing the game. Got motion sick again, like queasy stomach every time around the 45-minute mark for me. So I'm like, okay, there's got to be something going on here, and it's been driving me nuts. And I know there was like reprojection going on, and like that's a software thing. I knew that was happening, but I feel like there had to have been something else going on there too. So I pretty much spent the past week getting a bunch of tools, and finally today I finalized the info I was looking for. So normally VR headsets, they use displays that have a low duty cycle, they call it, to get a low persistence. And basically your eyes, you have to pulse the display or the backlight if you're LCD to the point where it's like black. Like there's moments of black periods. You don't know it's happening because your eyes and your brain can like piece the things together. But the longer the screen is lit up and less black, usually means more motion blur perceptible to the eye. And I started doing a lot of measurements of different brightness levels for the PSVR 2, and I found that this persistence level actually changes with the headset. So that brightness slider isn't actually changing how bright the pixels get during the image on the screen. It is actually changing how long or how little, how low persistence is the display, how long that black bar is staying on board. And today, I got all these measurements, as you can see on screen. On the top left, that is actually, let me double check. Yeah, the top left is the valve index at, it's actually lower persistence than the PSVR 2 at the lowest setting. So for me, not only was reprojection at play, but there's a lot of blur if you have the brightness super high up. For me, I have to play on 25%, which is what I've been doing to mitigate motion blur for me, because I seem to be very susceptible to it. Maybe it's all the years I spent in like such a super low persistence headset, but it's made me and a few other people nauseous, and it's just kind of a side effect of using a standard OLED panel. Basically, it's very similar to what we use in the iPhone. It's a pentile OLED display. And OLEDs just suffer from not being able to get the same brightness as LCDs, so they had to compensate to preserve lifetime by doing this high persistence. And they're also trying to advertise it as an HDR headset. So it sucks for me because there's people out there that don't have the motion sickness I have for this issue. Like they can keep it 100% and play through the entirety of Horizon in one go, and they're gonna have a much better experience because of that brightness than me. But for me, I had to crank it down considerably. So
you don't feel sick anymore now? Once you went to 25%, that solved it?
It improved a lot. I can play much longer without getting sick. Yeah. So if you have any friends or you know anyone that have tried PSVR 2 and they're getting queasy, try lowering the brightness for them. Like, don't even tell them. Just do it. They might not even notice, and it won't fix reprojection. Again, reprojection. The frame doubling of 60 to 100 for games like I think Horizon and GT7, but having reprojection and the persistence blur might genuinely make newbies to VR pretty sick, or in some cases long time users. So yeah,
I think that a lot of people might be mistaking this motion blur for reprojection. Everybody kind of lumping both issues into the same category.
True.
It's interesting, Eric, because there was the other major hardware companies took a lot of flack when they moved away from OLED and went to LCD. But when they kind of tried to justify that, Meta specifically, but others as well, I remember one of the main talking points behind these new LCD displays is that they were such low persistence, right? And then here we are, this kind of we've been lauding Sony for the last year for finally bringing us back to OLED, and then you hate to say it, but whether this turns out to be kind of a necessary evil or not, it at least appears like they might be giving some validity to what the meta people were saying at the time.
Yeah, I mean, there was a reason why everybody moved away from them, right? I mean, it was a cost reason, but the reason was, the displays were consistently better that way, and you had to give up some of the great colors that you wanted and the darks that you'd want. But yeah, everybody cried about it, or like everybody cried about it. Like we had to have OLED back, I mean, now we have it, and maybe it wasn't the right move. I don't know. I'm into the boat where it doesn't bother me at all. And for me, the little bit that does bother me, the trade-off of the colors is so much so that I would prefer the OLED over the other. But I feel bad for anybody who's having issues. You know what I mean? Unfortunately for me, I just don't have any of those issues. But if there are lots of people out there if this is a big thing and lots of people are having the issue, I mean, that's a problem. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'd have to see exactly how many people are really going through this. But I just don't have the issue, and I really love the colors of this headset. It really pops, man. It really is a big difference.
Yeah, I would agree with everything that you just said. I haven't really had any kind of issues outside of one game, which we'll talk about at another time. But it wasn't Horizon, it wasn't GT7, and it was very brief.
Are you guys running at 100%, or have you turned it down a little bit? I turned it down to like 70-75% today, just to see. I don't know if I've noticed a difference, but
I dialed it back. I dialed it back a little bit, 2 clicks, whatever that turns out to be. 2 clicks to the left, just because sometimes it's a little too bright in certain scenes. Like, it really is a lot for your eyes to take in. So I just kind of pulled it back just a little bit, and it's still beautiful. The colors still pop. It's very bright even at that. So I had a couple ways I wanted to go with this, and I kind of got. All right, well, here we go. How about this, Brad? You say the 25% seems to be that sweet spot for you. Did you use your brightness meter to check and see how many nits it was at that? Because you've kind of speculated that the reason why they're doing it like this is so that they can technically classify it as HDR, when in its most practical use it probably isn't. How does the brightness stack up at 25%? Versus 70 to 80 or even 100.
Yeah, I haven't. Again, I just got the. Again, this footage that you're seeing is like 1,000 frames per second. I just got the camera today because I was arguing with a lot of people this past week about this. Like, some people were saying I was crazy, that there was a persistence issue or whatever. So like, I rather get the data to show I'm not crazy. I'm always being gaslit. I swear, I'm always being gaslit doing this stuff. But
Brad has to prove to himself that he's not crazy, like constantly.
It's so wild. Like I mean, anyway. But I will measure it at different levels. For me, again, 25% does seem to be the sweet spot where it's not too dark, and the motion clarity, as you like to call it, is good enough for me to use it. I will measure. I only measure this headset with the high speed camera. I also measure some other older OLED headsets as well, some of the first gens, because even those headsets did tout a lower persistence, maybe not as low as the LCDs that came out after it. So I am curious if whatever Samsung is giving Sony is just, I don't know. But I will have those measurements for different brightness levels and how many nits you actually get, because that's important data. I just haven't got to it yet.
Maddie Freedom in the chat says, interesting. I dialed the brightness back to get rid of Mira. But thinking about it, that might be why I stopped feeling sick with GT7.
I've heard a lot of people say that about the Mira, that they dial it back because of the Mira and that it helps the Mira, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Well, I mean, it's kind of worked for the Oculus Rift. I mean, that was kind of one of the big downfalls of that headset, is just how dimly lit the thing was, or at least that was my experience with it. Roots, have you experienced any kind of discomfort while playing?
I really haven't. Actually, the only discomfort I've experienced in VR in the last few months, ironically, was that shooter with you the other day, Mash. I don't know if there's frame rate issues or what, but man, I got out of there feeling like really bizarre. And I was like, man, I think the frames must have been bouncing around, because that's the only thing that messes with me is when the frame rates jump around sporadically. My eyes can sense it. Other than that, if frames are good, it doesn't bother me.
That's one of that game that you're talking about is one of those games that you have to run in Oculus. You can't run in Steam OpenXR. You have to run it. If you're running an Oculus headset, you have to switch it over. Otherwise, it doesn't run well. But as soon as you switch it over, everybody that I have talked to says it's like super smooth afterwards. But yeah, it's definitely jittery. I would have got sick too.
Brett, have you played anything other than Horizon to see if your comfort issues persist across titles?
I played a couple, and again, it's. By the way, we can change the video. Some people are getting upset about it.
Well, see, the more they get upset, the less likely Roots is changing shit. No, I'm just kidding.
Keep it on there for the rest of the show. Put Oprah right next to it.
Yeah,
but
do a split screen.
But yeah, it's not something. Again, this issue combined with the reprojection, which are all the heavy hitting titles, which are the games that I mostly want to play, are yeah, they do affect me, because that's all I've been playing. Again, it's like all the stuff that are higher end exclusives right now. So eventually I'll have a huge review for this thing, and like I'm not going to get that review out probably for still a couple weeks, because I want to get everything figured out. So yeah, I'll play more. Right.
Because I was trying to control variables, right? If you play a game that isn't reprojecting, then you can eliminate that as a potential source for your discomfort. Yeah. That's the only reason I ask. Assuming that this problem is exactly what you think that it is, with the persistence time, is this something that can be corrected through software, or is this just something that's baked in and hard coded, and that's just how it's going to be, and there's no hope?
So for duty cycle, you probably, it depends on how.
Like could they do in the settings? Obviously, they want to keep their HDR claim for the advertising. Could they put something in the settings that disables HDR and enables low persistence mode, or something to that effect?
The only thing I think they could do, and this might, I don't know the specs of this display exactly, and OLED has a problem where eventually the organic compounds that make up all the pixels will burn out. So you could technically do the lower duty cycle while also making the actual emitters, all the subpixel emit brighter during that, and that would kind of get both the best worlds. But again, I don't know if that would kill the lifetime of the OLED panels, which is probably even more of a worry probably for a consumer than it really does stink. It's just one of those things where it's like either fix this or fix the reprojection stuff. That is not very good, like they really need to do one of those things, I think.
Well, we're going to talk about the reprojection a little bit more in depth when we get to the gaming section, because that's primarily where it has reared its ugly head. But I do have a question specifically regarding the reprojection, and I've heard you mention before that you believe that most of the reprojection work's being done on board, on the headset itself, and not the console. And speculated that maybe a firmware update could improve the situation. How likely do you think that would be?
Depends if Sony cares enough. That's what scares me. Like, I really hope they do care about this, because like, I don't know. That's what makes me so nervous. Like, That's what makes me so nervous about this headset is I like genuinely want it to succeed more than even the Quest headsets coming out, because it kind of pushes what I want from VR. I want a unit that's not being held back by a mobile chip. I want games like Horizon. Horizon is like probably my second favorite VR game I've ever played so far, despite all the motion sickness I have. Like it's like it feels like I jumped into an art painting the entire way through, and I love that feeling. But like these issues that are probably not just making seasoned people like me sick, but other people might come. I read an article today by Digital Trends, and even they were said that 2 out of 3 of their times they got motion sick, and I'm like,
Wow.
this should not be a problem in 2023. I mean, this was a problem before 2016 with like the ZK1 and 2 stuff. This should be a problem now. So they really need to do it. And the reason why we think that the reprojection is handled on board, going back to all the data mining people are doing to try to see if this could work for PC, they actually got the headset working, as I said, in like a theater mode, 3 degrees of freedom working with a PC. And they were actually reprojecting frames from that PC in that theater mode to the headset. So there's definitely some sort of reprojection happening on the chip that would require a firmware update to fix.
Well, all right. So I think we've pretty thoroughly went over what the main issues are with the display. Let's talk about some of the other aspects of it. And well, Roots, let's talk a little bit about the color depth. Obviously, again, it's been widely publicized that this is HDR OLED, and outside the brightness, which is just really bright at times, the colors are just amazing. And I don't mean like, oh yeah, I remember now what OLED is like, amazing. I mean like, oh my God, I've never seen a display in VR that is this colorful. And specifically, a lot of people talk about how beautiful Horizon is. When I was in Gran Turismo earlier tonight, just going through the cinematic stuff, seeing all of the colors and stuff that they put in, even the intro.
The intro is cool, right?
It was jaw dropping, man. Like that has been, issues aside, and we're going to talk some more about other issues. Issues aside, that has been kind of the main thing that sticks out to me about this display is just how beautiful and colorful it is.
Oh yeah, Horizon's beautiful, like you said, but going to Tetris Effect or going to even Synth Riders, both of those are very colorful. The Lindsey Sterling experience blew me away, and so even a game like Light Brigade, which has a different colored palette, the way that it's designed, the ones that are colorful stand out so well because the colors are so good. It is definitely the best colors I've seen in a VR headset for sure. It just sucks that it has to come with such a big asterisk next to it for people that have issues, right? Like with it, because that's a big issue. Getting sick in VR is like one of the worst things that can happen to somebody, because it's the most potential thing to stop them from ever trying to play again. So
yeah, for some people that's the case for sure. Eric, you know what I have particular issues with? Gray blacks and washed out colors. And I haven't been having that issue so much lately. What about you?
Yeah, I mean that's the trade-off, right? Like I get it. Like I mean, I feel bad for some people, but just for me, I mean, and I wasn't I wasn't before like a huge OLED fan. Like I had to have it. Like I was okay. Like I was okay with the new, like with the grays. I'm like, it's okay. I can live with it. It's pretty good. But man, now that I'm seeing it again, and after it's been not that way for a long time, I missed it, and I want my VR to be that way again. So like ultimately, when they can come out with an OLED display has fixed all these issues, which Brad thinks it'll probably be about where they're affordable, probably about 2 or 3 years from now. That's when I think it'll be truly great. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, again, for me, because I don't have any of these problems, I just want great colors and I want like the best VR I can get. And for me, that's what it is. It's just too bad it has to be a trade-off. My question is, you know, how much though, if Sony does want to take the initiative to try and fix this, how much can they really fix it though with software updates, Brad? Like, is it feasible to make it a little bit better, or could they make it a lot better? I mean, like, I know they have to decide to do it, but if they do decide to do it, because this is a big thing for them. If they want to do it moving forward, they want people to be happy with it. Is there enough that they could do to make it a better situation?
I think they could. Like, even if they don't fix the loading cycle, like, at least get a better reprojection system. You should not have a worse reprojection system than the one that's built into Steam VR, because that one is always been made fun of for being pretty bad. But this one is definitely worse, and you'll get stuttering, and especially like again, like I think we're gonna talk about Call of the Mountains very soon, but like I love that game so much, but like there's no teleport option to also mitigate some of these issues that come with the hardware. Like that might solve some issues for. There's a lot of things that Sony can do. There's also a lot of things developers that are developing for the platform can do as well. So I don't know what's going on there.
I was waiting on you to stop talking so I could say that, right? Like, some of this falls on Sony, but a lot of it falls on these developers too, for having to rely on reprojection in the first place. But then again, it just goes back to that same theme as well. That it's a trade-off, right? Like, maybe Call of the Mountain, maybe they could have made it so that it doesn't need to fall back on reprojection, but then would it be the same visual masterpiece that it is had they done that? So yeah, trade-offs. I think that's the story of VR up until now, and it's still the early days. But the history of the future is laden with trade-offs, apparently. Flying Cow, Steam VR motion smoothing is worse than PSVR 2 reprojection. Well, it certainly has at least as bad of a reputation. I don't know in practice, if I would say it's worse or better. But yeah, I keep it turned off unless absolutely necessary.
The Oculus has it dialed in. They know what they're doing when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, Oculus is always doing something a little different. Distract, please don't make me buy another headset. I can't afford a V2 in the next 3 years. Now that's something. There you go. Or Oculus 3, not Quest 3.
Oh, that's
Oculus
right.
3. Yeah. Before we move on from the hardware, there are some other things that we can talk about, specifically display related. But before we get to lenses, SDE and Mira. And I say them together because a lot of people mistake Mira for SDE, especially those who have played primarily on PlayStation VR to this point and didn't really understand what Mira is. It's visible here, and I've kind of had an up and down time with it. Like, I didn't notice it much at first, and then it got to the point where I could not see it. And now I think I'm finally turning the corner and getting used to it again. And it's not as obvious to me. Ruuts, how bad has the Mira been in your headset?
I've only noticed it a couple times. And it was like in really, really dark scenes. And I think the worst was in Kayak VR at night in one of those Antarctica or something.
Right.
And then the other time was Resident Evil 8 and literally for like 3 seconds or something. It was such a short amount of time. So I really haven't noticed it much at all. But I know exactly what it is because it made me return 2 CV1s. So, I know what I'm looking for, but I haven't seen it too much. So.
Eric, how big of an issue has Mira been for you?
Same exact thing as Ruuts. Like, I've seen, Kayak VR is the worst culprit for me. The night scenes in Kayak are really, really bad with the reprojection. And I saw it a little bit in Resident Evil in the beginning, in the forest, when it's super dark and literally looks like there are portions of it literally looks like you have cheesecloth in front of your face. and you're just having to peer through it, or you're like right up on top of the screen door. And there's definitely a smudging effect to it as well. So there, I noticed it in those two. I didn't see it at all in GT7, and maybe it's because the scenery moves so fast, it's tougher to pick up. But even in the night scenes, I didn't see it. You know, when you're racing at night, I didn't see it there at all. Now, when I get farther into Resident Evil 8 and I have just scratched the surface there, maybe I'll see it more when on some of the other darker scenes when you get farther in. But I just haven't had an opportunity to see it yet. And you know how dark After the Fall is in some scenes. I didn't see it there at all. Like, there was none at all. And some now they have brightened that level up a little bit, because with the colors, you know, After the Fall is on PC, you need the flashlight to be able to see in some of these rooms and some of these corners of these rooms because it's so dark. They have brightened up some of the levels. So like some of the apartment levels where it gets super, super dark, they have brightened them up a little bit. So it's not as dark as it always was. But even still, in the areas where it's tough to see it at all, I don't see the Mura there at all. So I don't know if it's as much of a hardware thing, or if they're certain developers are covering up why I see it somewhat in some game and then I don't see it at all in another. I don't know if there's a technical reason for that, or if it's the developers that are not covering it up properly. But for me, it's definitely not an issue. You know, I know some people notice it more than others, and it can be subjective. But for me, it just doesn't bother me.
Yeah. Brad, some people are claiming that the SDE is an issue here, and this has been a weird one for me, because I'm wondering if they're saying Mira, because SDE hasn't really been much of an issue for me at all. Is it noticeable? Sometimes, not always, and I think largely that is because this is a pin-tile OLED, and it's not full RGB. But most of the time I don't see it. And then and it has also it's been specific to the games. Like, there's certain games that I can see it a little bit, or I think I can. There are other games that I can try to see it and don't. And how do you think this this display stacks up in terms of resolution, but in a gaming context? We're not trying to be, you know, a replacement for a laptop. I think the resolution's pretty damn good with this. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there is SDE, and let me preface this by saying that I think it's fine, honestly. Like, the SDE for me is just still, for an OLED panel, the SDE is probably the least of my issues with this device for visuals. Like, I don't, it doesn't bother me. It's still way better than any other standard OLED in terms of that specification. But I should note, yeah, we had no idea what type of pixel arrangement they were using until I basically messaged my friends at iFixit to, well, actually, they already took apart the headset and put it back together, and luckily, I asked him, could you do this for me? And he was fine with taking it apart again. But yeah, they put up a microscope to it, and we were able to find out that, yeah, it is using diamond pentile, which is similar to all the other older headsets that would use OLED, like the Vive and the Rift. And basically what pentile means, so there's different kinds of pixel layouts. The most used one today for a lot of headsets, especially LCD, is called RGB stripe. It's red, green, blue, fills up every pixel, those 3 subpixels. And pentile doesn't actually have those 3 main colors for every pixel. They'll actually be sharing different color subpixels to make up a pixel, and do something called subpixel rendering to make it look like that they all have their own pixels. But effectively, from a scientific standpoint, there's actually less subpixels per display than the Quest 2 has per display.
Yeah.
I don't think it's an issue. It's worth the colors and everything, but that is why you would probably notice STE more in this headset than you would in like a Quest 2, for example. So, yeah, I think it's fine. Mura is a problem, like you said. The kayak VR nighttime scene in the Antarctica. It's like a star field pops up. It's pretty awful there. But yeah.
You know, I noticed it looked like a star field in Thumper. Like it was like extremely noticeable. But the thing is that it works in Thumper. It just seems like it's part of the art. Like it doesn't even bother me at all. Yeah, I remember having this subpixel discussion when Quest 2 came out, and people were trying to compare the clarity or the resolution between Quest 2 and Valve Index. And, you know, obviously the Valve people were like, although the Index is like so much further, more resolute than the Quest display, because they were just basically comparing the published resolution. But if you broke it down to like subpixels per degree, they're very comparable. And so I'm actually kind of familiar with this idea already from that discussion. I remember.
While we're also nerding out, one thing that Sony did good on, I would say, is they put a diffuser on top of the display panel to make the pixel gaps less noticeable, which effectively gives you a little bit more perceivable resolution, less screen door effect. The Valve Index actually also does that. People don't know that, but Valve also put a diffuser to
Samsung Odyssey.
Yeah,
the second version of the Odyssey did that. But I remember famously, though, people didn't like it on the Odyssey. They thought it made the picture too soft.
It does do that. It does, but it's either heavy SDE or softer picture. So
Right.
Trade off.
Yeah. All right. So before we move on from optics, let's talk a little bit about Fresnel lenses here. Again, a lot of criticism from certain people regarding this move, and it's one of the more confusing moves for me. Moving to a Fresnel lens from an aspheric lens that, like we saw in the original PlayStation VR 2. But Eric, I mean, in practice, this hasn't been much of an issue for me. At first, I didn't notice any kind of glare or God rays. Over time, I have gone on to notice them in certain scenarios, but they're very muted. It's very much like Gen 2, Gen 2 Fresnel. Remember, you know, there were some refinements in the Fresnel lenses when the Gen 2 headsets came out. I feel like this is on par with that mostly, and it's either I'm just used to it from playing so much, Oculus over the years, or it really just there isn't all that much there. Have you had any kind of issues with glare?
No, not at all, which is weird because I see it a lot. Like, I think I've told everybody a lot of times that it's normally an issue that does bother me quite a bit, but I don't know. It just hasn't bothered me here.
Same.
Yeah. It's a weird thing. Like to me, again, it's like perception. So screen door effect or mirror has a tendency to bother more people than others. And then, something like God rays can bother more people than others. Like for me, I know there's people that I love the Valve Index. It's a great headset but for me, I don't know if I have one was a different, run of it. But for me, the God rays are really, really bad in there. And it's something that, like, to the point where it kind of bothers me at times. Now, I work through it because the other things in that headset are so freaking good that, I'll live with the little, God rays that I have. But for me, I thought if they were going to be here, I would be the one to notice them because some does seem to affect me more than others. So I just don't see them here. And it's, I don't know. Even some of the text, now, I have noticed that with the text, if I don't have the headset on perfectly, if you're looking at screens or menus, you will get definitely a halo around the text. But I think that's more of not having the headset on correctly, because once I adjust the headset, it seems to go away. So I don't know if that's an issue for some people too, because, we'll probably get into this like sweet spot. There is a tiny sweet spot in this headset, and that is one thing that is definitely wrong with it. It does take some adjusting, and if you get it out of that sweet spot even a little bit, you're going to notice it.
Do you know who doesn't have a tiny sweet spot?
My mom! Oh, yeah.
Several big sweet spots.
Ruuts, I like Eric. I'm particularly sensitive to glare and God rays, and it just hasn't been an issue here for me. And it hasn't been for a while, honestly, on modern headsets. Any kind of issues here for you?
See, this is the thing. I see God rays, but not with this headset, but in general, and it doesn't really bother me. And I've looked, I've tried to find them here, and I'm not seeing them. So whatever they're doing to diffuse it is clearly doing a good job, because you've got the bright light on really dark scenes sometimes, right? Or colors.
Yeah.
And I still have yet to see any God rays. That doesn't mean they're not there, but I'm not seeing them. So.
Nice. Brad, why do you think that they moved away from a spheric? We know why they didn't go with pancake lenses. Cost aside, it's very inefficient, and they're trying to push out the brightest consumer headset mankind's ever seen. But the original PSVR 1 had these glass spheric lenses in them, and many people expected that the Gen 2 would follow suit, but this has not been the case. Why do you think that is?
So with spheric lenses, first of all, they're not that different than Fresnel, but there is some major differences, obviously, other than clarity. They're much heavier than Fresnel, and if you want to get if they wanted to get the bigger FOV that they got out of PSVR 2 with the spherics, then that would be even weighing more than the lenses in PSVR 1. So I think this was the trade-off they chose. They wanted their headset, which seems like that's what they got. They got a lighter headset than PSVR 1, right? Is that the specification there?
Yeah.
So it makes sense. They wanted to expand FOV at the same time, have a light headset, because you have to have a more comfortable headset during these days, with Pancake coming out, and that's kind of their competition in terms of consumer stuff right now. So again, there's a trade-off with every single lens type out there. So
hey,
it's whatever Sony thought made sense.
Brad, Virtual Steve has a question about how eye tracking knows different size pupils. I guess his one is bigger than the other, and he's curious if you have any idea how that works.
So it shouldn't matter too much, because it's not really it's not tracking your pupils too much. It's actually projecting an IR ring into your pupils, and it's watching that more than the actual blackness of your pupil itself. So as long as it sees the ring of IR in your pupil, it's fine.
So if you had a really small pupil, you'd be screwed.
Well, that's actually so this is actually one thing special about PSVR 2. I've tried many headsets with Tobii eye tracking, which is what PSVR 2 is using, and they always do the same. You look different dots, they tell you where to look, and it would always be on a black background, because that's usually how dark a lot of these headsets were. But PSVR 2 does the same thing, but with a white background. And the reason they do that is, one, the headset gets super bright because of the HDR, and when the display gets brighter, well, guess what? Your pupils are going to get smaller. They're going to start doing the opposite of dilating, or whatever. They're going to constrict. So again, they got it covered. They know what they're doing there.
Yeah, and by the way, the eye tracking has just been flawless, hasn't it? Like, I haven't had to recalibrate it once, and I've passed my headset around. I have to recalibrate my IPD, but the eye tracking is just always spot on 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And we could probably do 20 minutes here on just what a profound difference eye tracking could make in games. But I really believe that this is a feature that really hasn't been explored to a fraction of its potential yet. We've seen some things with it, specifically in Res Infinite with the aiming, which is really cool. But really, I think that outside of the menu selection, this has really been underutilized thus far, and I think that this is going to be another one of those features moving forward, like the haptics, that kind of set next gen headsets apart from last gen headsets. So I look forward to seeing what they do with the eye tracking.
Also, next
Right.
it separates the developers too, the next level developers that actually want to utilize the hardware. That's my biggest
Yeah.
thing, and this is easy for me to say, not making the games, but like you have this amazing hardware out there, and some devs won't do shit with it, and it just baffles me why. Aside from maybe they just don't know how. I don't know.
Is there anything specifically profound about the eye tracking that you think we should mention before we just gloss over it?
You asking me or Brad? I'm assuming Brad.
Brad. Brad, yeah.
I was gonna say I have no idea.
You know what? Just one little note, because I'm still a believer of tethered systems. Like if I'm ever given the choice, I kind of want the tether, and it's not just because of like I don't have to worry about the battery dying on me. You can have higher refresh rate eye tracking. You can have brighter displays. You can have all these things if you are tethered to a system. You can't have those things. Like the Quest Pro eye tracking, for example, they have to limit how fast the eye tracking cameras work on those things because they have to worry about battery constraints and all the lifetime constraints with that. So that is something I wanted to do a little scathing remark that people love to complain about the tether, but for me, you can't get performance and battery life at the same time. You gotta pick one or the other.
There's so many things like that. I mean, it's great to be wireless, but I like fidelity as well, man. Like, I don't know. I just the whole package. The cord just doesn't bother me.
Bring on the puck revolution, huh?
Yes. Well, you remember I was talking about the puck 3 years ago. I was
Yeah,
like, well, why don't they
yeah.
just have a little puck or something you can plug it into, and then that way you make the headset lighter.
I think it's one of the best ideas. I really do. I mean, I know some people would get pissed off about it because they're like, if I gotta have something on me, it's not, But man, to me, it's like a no-brainer. I don't understand why more people wouldn't do this.
Yeah. But the
People
people,
already plugging in their N reels to the Steam Decks and walking around with that.
Well,
same concept.
and people
Yeah.
have no problem hooking 17 batteries to their Quest or whatever. but
Right.
God forbid
Yeah.
you hook a puck to it. So.
I mean, one of the coolest things that I have with that, I do use quite a bit when I'm traveling now, and I kind of like if I'm flying now, I'll binge watch it, and that is the Rokid Air glasses. I have these Rokid Air AR glasses. The term is loose AR, saying calling them AR, but mainly it's a big TV and a set of glasses, and they're as small as like a set of regular sunglasses, so it doesn't look dumb on you if you're like on a plane or something. And it's one of the coolest ways to consume media, and that's hooked up directly to your phone, and you're just casting it from your phone, but you have this huge, TV inside your headset, and it actually looks really good, and the image is really good. So, I mean, it just makes sense. I wish they would do it more.
Yeah.
It's coming. It's coming. Absolutely coming. Distract. Eric, check out this comment. Distract in the chat says, the tagline for PSVR 2 over PC for me is it just works. I'll take ease of use, plug and play over drivers clashing any day. And I think that that's kind of been an underappreciated aspect of this whole package this week. We're hailing what a great time we've had this week because we've been playing all these games, and part of that is because there's so many new games to play. But another part of that is it's just been so easy to get into. And, Sony obviously placed a big emphasis on this with their little bit of marketing that they did leading up to launch. But we kind of felt like it was maybe being a bit overblown. Maybe they were overstating just how simple it is to use this thing, but they were not. Like how it's been a bit refreshing, hasn't it, to be able to just pick up your headset and play a high-end VR game and be in the game, 60 seconds after you pick up your headset.
Yeah, I mean, however dialed in we always think we have our shit, there's always something that will fuck with you at the last minute. You know what I mean? Especially when we're pressed for time. I mean, I don't know how many times I'm cramming for this show trying to get that third game in. You know what I mean? And I get in there and I'm ready to go, and like I have like 4 hours and I need to like every little bit of it, and then I got to screw around with something for 20-30 minutes just to make sure everything's perfect. Now, I mean, is it that bad? Probably not. I'm probably making it out to be worse than it is, but there are issues. I mean, I have issues. there always just seems to be an audio issue. Like, like my PC never wants to pick up my audio. I always have to figure out where the hell, what headset it's going to. Or sometimes, it just doesn't want to play. Or Steam is a finicky, like program. Sometimes it wants to launch, sometimes it doesn't want to launch. Sometimes it freezes up on you right in the middle of something. I don't know how many times I've had to force close Steam, manually go to Task Manager, force close it, and then I'll open it up again, and then do all this again. And it's just issues. Now, I'll go and I'll work every one of those issues out to be able to do PC VR because I absolutely love it. But there is something to be said for just putting the headset on and turning the console on, and you're ready to go.
You guys haven't even dealt with the worst of it, or at least I assume Wes hasn't, because I returned my wheel because of the fucking PC VR jank. I could never get any game to work. I challenge anybody to tell me what. Like, it's such a pain in the ass trying to get your wheel to work with certain games. I guarantee that was not a problem for you guys. You probably hooked your wheel up and it fucking worked immediately. And that's
plug it in.
Just plugged it in. That was it.
That's what it is too. You have to have all these drivers set up. If you do it, and if I plug that wheel into the PC, I have to have all these different kind of drivers hooked up into it, which is, once you get it done, it's in there and it's done. It's not that big of a deal. But the problem is, certain hardware does not want to play well with those drivers. Like, I remember when I got my Pimax 8KX, PyTool did not want to work with the Logitech drivers. I couldn't get the headset to run at all. It wouldn't even recognize the headset. I had to literally talk to the developers of the headset and figure out that it was clashing with the Logitech drivers, and I had to remove every driver just so I could get the headset to work. So, yeah, I mean, it's a USB-C port. Plug it in, you're ready to drive. That's it.
Yeah, it's been beautiful. Brad, before we move on, do you want to defend PC's honor here, or do you concede that this point is valid?
It can be messy.
The best things in life are messy.
Yeah, and it's still worth it. Trust me. I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'll go through all the jank I need to if I can play something on PC VR that's going to look amazing.
But the reality is, there's some people that won't or can't. They're just not there. You know what I mean? Like, any type of weirdness, and they're like, I can't do this. That's what the console people are for, or that's what the console's for, those people.
I'm gonna stay on my PlayStation VR 2 as long as I can possibly hold out without going back, because I feel like when I go back, that'll be the kind of the true grade for this headset and this platform. Is how does it feel to go back to PC after a long time away from it, a relatively long time. Then we'll know just how good or bad the display is, just how good or bad the setup is, and all of these different issues will become a little bit more black and white when I go back. And Vertigo
a lot less
2,
colorful.
Vertigo 2 is probably going to be the one, unless the Prey Dog Universal Injector comes out before then, and it might kind of derail my plans. But I'm going to try to give this one at least a month before I switch back and just see how it goes.
I think it's going to feel very muted, like, just for a lot of different reasons. The colors, the haptics, like Brad was saying earlier. Like, I think that was you saying that. It just it adds so much to it, and I'm kind of the same way. I don't want to go back, but I have to.
All right, so I think we've beaten this horse pretty thoroughly. There are other things, of course, that we could talk about, but we'll revisit it after we've had 6 months in the headset or 3 months in the headset, what have you. I think that overall, all our impressions are fairly positive. Of course, not perfect, but nothing ever is. And I think as long as you're not getting motion sick in it, I think this is where if you're a gaming enthusiast, this is going to be where you want to play your games at for the foreseeable future. Will it be in 2 years? That's a problem for 2 years from now. But today, this is the best you can get, in my opinion.
And just one quick last look at Brad's video for all those people that bitched about it. Here you go. It's back.
There you go.
I mean, honestly, even like waiting a year probably wouldn't be a terrible idea either, because you'll have more content and maybe they'll get all the bugs ironed out, So
Yeah, maybe wait till fall. Wait till this holiday season. That might be a good enough time.
Sure.
See if they've done some improvements.
Early
and you're definitely gonna
adopters
have
are
some...
always screwed. Remember that, guys. Always remember that.
I've had such a great time being screwed this past week. Screw me every day if that's what my VR is going to be like.
Quest Pro 1500, 1100, whatever.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that's maybe a little bit more screwing.
Yeah, but it is notable that PSVR Gen 1 did a mid-cycle refresh. It got a V2, was a bit more refined, and had different lenses in it. So who knows? Maybe it'll get better.
Yeah. Well, we know Quest 2 did. They constantly change the software. I don't know why Sony wouldn't fine tune it, but I don't know.
You mean the Oculus 2?
Oh yeah, the
Sorry.
Oculus 2.
So let's move on. Let's talk a little bit software. Let's talk about the flagship, Horizon Call of the Mountain, released alongside this headset last Wednesday. $59.99 if you didn't get it bundled in with your headset already. This is a game that is kind of it's a tweener. It's a prequel to the latest Horizon game, Horizon Forbidden West, but it takes place after the original Horizon Zero Dawn. But notably, Ruuts, this game is not your typical Horizon game. Typically, a Horizon game is open world. It's something that relies heavily on stealth and crafting, and this is nothing like a Horizon game.
This is the climb in Horizon world. So I don't know. So yeah, I mean that's basically the gist of it for this game. Is it's a lot of climbing. It's got action. It's got a good story. It's beautiful. Like Brad was saying, it is like you're in a painting the whole time, and I'm enjoying it a lot more than I thought I was going to. I was worried it was going to be a climbing simulator, because it seemed like that was written all over it, and then I got in there and I'm like, wow, this is the best climbing I've ever done in virtual reality. Usually it's a gimmick. It's like, okay, you're going to climb a ladder and you're going to feel, hey, it's cool, it's a ladder. This is like, not once, let's put it this way, not once did I think, oh man, I wish I was chalking my hands right now. It's what I wish the climb was like, because the climb was just so much fucking work, man. Like the climbing in this really is the best climbing I've done in VR, and I actually enjoy it, and that's a lot to be said about that.
Anybody that's been following our channel for the last 3 months should know what a profound statement this is coming from Ruuts, because I think at the end there, Ruuts wasn't even really looking forward to playing this game, because it was pretty much confirmed that this is a climbing game. And guess what, guys? I mean, if you have to pigeonhole it into one genre, which would be a vast oversimplification of it, but if you had to, first and foremost, this is a climbing game. But Eric, they go about it differently, don't they? They introduce a pretty wide array of tools to kind of break up the monotony of what your typical climbing game would be.
Yeah, I was really worried about Ruuts. I think we and Wes both were, because the three of us had a conversation right before the PlayStation VR 2 was coming, and Ruuts, you were not looking forward to playing it. You were, before that point, before GT's interview or his review, you were absolutely looking forward to this game. And then after that review, when he said how much climbing was in it, you were not looking forward to this game at all. You were like, I don't think I want to play this game.
No, what worried
we
me
had these conversations.
What worried me was somebody's review, like upload, or I don't know what magazine it was.
It was GT.
Yeah,
was
he said 70% climbing.
It was, yeah, it was. Yeah. It was just like, but somebody had touted it, and it wasn't just GT, but it was like, this is the climbing game of all climbing games or something. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, because I was worried it was going to be a climbing game. Now they're saying this is the shtick. It's climbing. This is, yeah, Beat Saber with the climbing. No, it just, but you know, I like I said, I challenge anybody to find any better climbing so far that I've done, and you know, I've made it pretty far. Probably not as far as, well, obviously not as far as West, because I did not finish it, and I don't know if Eric did or not, but
yeah, I mean, I I knew what you were saying. I think we were just trying to like give you like, look, it's just it feels more better than the climb. You know what I mean? That's what I think Wes and I were saying. And thankfully, I was a little nervous too because I we had a taste of what the climbing was, so we knew what it was going to be like and how beautiful it was. So it kind of mitigated some of the thing. But I'm not a climb fan either. I don't like the game The Climb. Like I played it to review it, and then I've never been back to it, and I probably never will go back to it because again, I don't think they're particularly, fun games to play for me. I just don't get a lot of enjoyment out of it. I look at it and I see it and I'm like, that's cool, but I don't really want to go to that again. This is completely different. This is adventure climbing. That's the only way I can say it that makes sense. Like the climb is like, I guess you can consider it adventure climbing, but it's just climbing. Here they mix in so many different types of climbing that you never get bored with it. So like just when you think like, oh, I got to do that again, they mix it up and they make you do it a different way. And then just the way you're doing it is so smooth. Like you feel like a badass when you're climbing, number one, because you never get to a point where you're like, where do I go? How do I get there? What do I do? Can I get to that ledge? You just instinctively know where you've got to go. And it's challenging enough to where, I feel good doing it. Like I accomplished something, but it's not like to the point where I'm ever going to get frustrated with it. Now, I wish it was maybe a little bit harder. Maybe like you have a mode for like your aiming to make the aiming harder. I wish they had a climbing mode that made it a little bit harder to climb. Like sometimes when you go to reach for a ledge that you probably shouldn't be able to reach, it like gives you an extra stretchy arm so you can get there.
I think that's adjustable in the accessibility options.
That would be cool. I would like to turn that off. Because I've noticed a couple of times where I'm just like, that should not be in my reach. And I go to reach for it and I kind of like reach a little bit farther and then all of a sudden my hand snaps to like a spot. So I just wish
that's my favorite spot. That's my favorite part. I'm so lazy.
I don't have to screw around. I know. It's good. I wish I had both, right? I want to have both, but the climbing is so good in this game. Again, adventure climbing that keeps you into it. You never get bored with it.
Brad, we kind of glossed over the eye tracking just in a desire to kind of wrap up the hardware stuff and move on. But it's interesting that eye tracking plays such a pivotal role in how they add nuance into the climbing in this game. You have a number of tools, and a lot of like the puzzle elements of the game are just trying to figure out which tool you need to use to continue climbing. But half or more of these tools work primarily based on the fact that you can aim with your eyes and set them up. It's pretty clever how they designed it, right?
I've actually I turned off that setting, the aiming with eyes, the entire time.
So you used all those climbing tools just by hand throwing them?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it's more fun, honestly. I tried a little bit with it on, but I think the aiming, not just for that, but like the bow, it feels a lot more rewarding to play. But
yeah, I turned it off for the bow. Interestingly, though, and I mentioned this on Monday, every time you reboot your console, it defaults that back to aim assisted shooting, which is really weird.
That is weird. But
it never occurred to me to just completely disable eye tracking though, because I got to imagine that would make the climbing a lot more challenging, having to throw all of those darts and all the blades and everything perfectly accurately while you're hanging from a ledge. That must be pretty difficult.
It's just been, I don't know, I really love this game. Like again, like this game I've had the most motion sickness in, but like I've never wanted to stomach through something so much, because like, especially if you take your time, like I really like all the little details that you can miss so much in this game. Like the little things. Like I posted a little clip on Twitter, for example, where like the little blaze vials, you can like shake them, and the more you shake them, they'll start changing colors and like glowing as if they're gonna like explode in your hand or something.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, like there's tons of little things like that that's what I'm in VR for. Like, it's not even just graphics. Like, graphics actually, I still think graphics and VR go together very well, more than flat games even. But, like, just having something where I forget where I am in real life. That is what I think VR does best. And there hasn't been too many titles like this that have done that, and the level design too. Like, I know we're talking about climbing, but like, it's very, you never know what you're gonna have to climb on, because they've been very clever on choosing different things, like statues or creatures. Like, I don't know, I didn't think I was gonna like this game. Like, honestly, I was kind of I was kind of with how Ruuts was feeling, like hearing all this stuff about the climbing and stuff. And I was like, oh god, this game's gonna be too linear. I'm not gonna like it. But I've really been liking this game despite all the issues I've been having with it. I can't do smooth turn in it, but no, it's a lot of fun, and the combat sequences again feel really rewarding when you turn off the eye tracking aiming. Like, it just feels. It just feels good.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, because I think a lot of us had in the back of our mind that maybe this experience was going to be a little too nerfed for an enthusiast. And while to some extent you can see where they're definitely trying to make it accessible for new players, I think we were certainly underselling it in some categories. And Roots, I think the combat was one of them. I mean, a lot of us thought that maybe the combat would turn out to be an afterthought in this game, because it's on a rail, on a circular rail, but still you don't have free movement. A lot of the early footage of the game only showed you fighting one enemy at a time, and we thought maybe it was going to just be so nerfed that it isn't going to be fun or challenging at all. And happy to report that is definitely not the case. In fact, in my opinion, the combat is one of the strengths of the game. It's one of the things that makes all the climbing worth it. What do you think about the combat sequences?
I agree. I think when it first was coming out and people said that you were stuck in a spot and you couldn't move, that worried me, and it worried a lot of people. I was like, fuck, man, I want to move around, but this actually has more movement than you would normally have. It's just different. It's a different mechanic. The dash, the way that they do it, it just feels so right. And like you said, you get 3-4 things coming at you at the same time. You're dashing around and you're pulling up several different types of explosive or electric arrows or whatever you're using. And it's just designed it. They did a really good job with it. And it definitely was not an afterthought. It was, like you said, it's one of the things that makes climbing worthwhile. There's another thing they do, not to get too far back into the climbing, but they broke it up enough to where it didn't feel like it was constant. Like, you would go on a burst and you'd get to a place and you'd have something going on or story or something, and then you'd climb again. It just they did a really good job.
Yeah, I think, this is going to sound weird, but I think really the only thing that would have really added much to the combat sequences, I feel like many of them I would have liked to have had just teleportation, and not really even just like free locomotion, but I felt like the combat was so fast that it would have felt really natural just to kind of teleport around the arenas in an attempt to kind of gain an angle on your enemy. And it's all about finding the weak points. Eric, how far have you gotten? Were you able to finish it? How deep did you go?
I didn't, man. I tried tonight. I got in a little bit later than I wanted to. I thought with one more session I could beat it. And
tricked you, didn't it?
It's longer than I thought. This is a longer game than I thought it was going to be. So I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm glad I didn't beat it, and now I can take my time a little bit, because I was a little bit rushing through to try and beat it tonight. So now I can finish it and take my time. But I've made it to to where you get the sun disk. You're in the winter. You're in the winter.
No spoilers. No, just kidding.
Oh yeah, you're in the winter land. The winter part of it. There's a name for. I can't remember the name of the town, but
yeah. I know.
But yeah, I've made it to there. I made it through there quite a fair ways. I beat the fire, dinosaur. And I went a little bit beyond that. So just beyond that, you know which one I'm talking about, right? The big fire dinosaur that you have to go through, and then
you've still got a good chunk of game ahead of you, friend.
Nice. Like how much do you like? How close do you think?
Took me 6 sessions, multi-hour sessions, to beat this. Like 12 to 14 hours for me. Now it's probably not going to take you that long.
I've got. I think I know I have like probably 6 or 7 in already.
Oh wow. Yeah. So is it worth $60 though? Do you think? Cost of? I would say. So.
Hell yeah.
We'll get to that at the end because I have an interesting yet familiar take on it. But let's talk about some of the things that really kind of make the case for $60. And you kind of alluded to this earlier, Brad, is the production value in this game. I mean, it's in pretty rarefied air here. Like, you could probably count on one hand the games that are kind of in this league in terms of production. It's a really beautiful world that they put you in. Yeah.
It's my favorite part, and they also like. I've always been like a big fan of elevation in VR, and like even like you climb somewhere, the geometry you've climbed, you could literally look down and see where you were like 10-20 minutes ago, and you could throw a cup down there and watch it bounce off. The geometry's still there, right? It doesn't phase out, and like.
And they never disappear. You drop all these tools and stuff, and they stay there forever. They never disappear.
That's just like, again, that's just like, that's the stuff I want out of VR. And I haven't. I mean, we've always joked about me not being a gamer the past couple of years, right? It's because I didn't feel like we were getting stuff like this. This is what I really get at. I feel the art and passion and love when I play this. Like, not saying other games aren't passionate, but like, I can just only imagine the blood, sweat, and tears that went into every waking little thing that I look around and can pick up and you mess with. I can touch grass in VR and it interacts with my hand. I can't believe it. It's awful, but I'm really impressed with what the developers did here, and
this makes me smile, Brad. Just that you're happy in a game and having fun makes me smile. I gotta admit.
Yeah, it's a console game too. What the hell, man?
Well, this is the thing. He's like me. He just wants real games. And the VR in general has been a very wild tech demo-y ride for a long while, and we're finally starting to see real games. My question to you guys is, do you think this game is on par with Half-Life Alyx graphics or exceeds Half-Life Alyx?
Right. Couple things here. First of all, that's a bit of an apples and oranges question. If you're talking specifically about graphics, they're different scenarios. This is puts you in lush wilderness, where Alyx is putting you into these urban environments and indoors things, which have a lot of detail to them. And it's a different kind of detail, but I mean, I think they're in the same league. I don't know which I would kind of give the crown to, again, because they're very different. I think that this is a game that's more aptly compared to like Stormland or maybe even Asgard's Wrath, and I think it looks a lot like Stormland, but it looks better. It's more detailed than Stormland was. And interestingly enough, we had, I don't know if you remember, but there was a lot of reprojection stuff in Stormland. We had to really dial the graphics and fog them back at the time to get it to run smoothly. I don't know, Eric, what would you say to that question? This versus Half-Life Alyx, graphically speaking.
Because I would say it doesn't fucking matter. They're both amazing. Go and play both. Really, I mean, they're that good. I mean, and you're right. It's like a different graphic style, so it's tough to say like this is better than that. I can tell you this: both of them are probably the two of the most amazing looking games I've ever played, and you will be sorry if you don't go play either one of them. So if you have a possibility and a chance to get PC VR, go play Half-Life Alyx, and if you can go get this headset, you must play this game.
And if you have a PC VR headset, you must play Hogwarts Legacy in the Luke Ross mod, because it is fucking amazing.
It is quite good. I agree.
It's interesting, and I think that we could do a very interesting 45-minute discussion on this game versus Half-Life Alyx in all the different categories and which one's a better game. I think most people would say Alex is at this point. Not a lot of people have finished this game yet, so
What if they're not a Half-Life fanboy? What do you think they would say? Because I think that has a lot to do with it.
I'm going to read a comment that was sent to me earlier today from a viewer, a direct message.
What are you wearing?
Well,
not that one.
That was my message to him, dude.
Oh man, well you took my answer.
All right, so this is what it says. It's linear, has incredible production value, relatively simple gameplay loop, awesome physics, best graphics in a VR game, AAA as fuck, holy fuck moments left and right, new VR friendly to new people. There's no run option. There's sexy floating hands, not a big weapon selection, but the ones you have are very well done. And it's from a side character in comparison to the main series. What game am I talking about? Half-Life Alyx or Horizon Call of the Mountain?
Both.
That's
it could
the
be
point.
either one, right?
That's the point. It's a very accurate description of both of these games. How does it stack up for you in terms of graphics, Brad, versus a game like Half-Life Alyx? Because this is the game all of the like console gamers want us to compare it against, because they know that Alyx is the gold standard on PC. How do you think it stacks up visually?
I think it's a totally different art style too. Honestly,
Right.
like this is, I keep
Agreed.
calling it like you're jumping into a painting in this game, because that's what it really kind of feels like. It's like a some sort of oil painting, where Alyx is more like gritty and trying to get this dark, realistic type of tone. I really do kind of put them in the same level with each other. So
Yeah, it's one of the most.
It's so stupid to argue about. Like we have only two games on the planet that have this kind of fidelity. We gotta compare them. Are you kidding me? Jesus
play both.
Christ.
Well, I think the console players want that validation of us saying at least that it's in the same ballpark, because again, they know that that's the one, right? The PC players put on a pedestal. Console players want their Half-Life Alyx, and they want to know, is this that?
Let me ask you this then. If this, and it probably will, Half-Life Alyx comes out for PlayStation VR 2, do you think the graphics you're gonna be able to say the same thing, or do you think people are gonna be like, dude, this is the best version of Alyx ever because of the colors and everything else?
Haptics? Can you imagine the weapons with the haptics?
Triggers, yeah. It's an interesting conversation to have, just in general, about this game versus Alyx, because they have a lot of the same strengths, but I would say that Horizon would win it in some categories, and Alyx would win in others. Like, for example, every time you get in a fight in Horizon, it's like a boss fight. And there's a lot of fighting in the game, but it's like a boss fight every time. There's a good variety of massive enemies, and while Half-Life does some of that, most of it's you're just fighting like 3 different types of Combine soldiers. With that said, though, all the time that you're climbing in Horizon, you're fighting dudes in Alyx. Like, it's nonstop the whole time. So again, it's a bit of an apples and oranges comparison, but I do think that they're in the same league in terms of quality, even in length. Like in terms of content, Alyx might have taken me a little bit longer, but again, very comparable.
Yeah.
We didn't miss Paradise Decay's super chat, did we?
We did.
Maybe.
Boom. We got AAA VR again. I'm addicted again. $2, £2.
PD said we must not be live because we missed the super chat. We must be recorded.
Yeah, we usually don't miss a super chat. That is kind.
We were very engrossed in the conversation.
I loved Brad's answer though. Of all the people, this is live. I think. Yeah.
What is really live? I mean, what is really live?
Yeah, it's all simulation.
That's true.
So while we're on production value, I feel like something that's largely being overlooked by the people who are talking about this game and drooling over the graphics is just how fucking top notch the sound design is in this game. Not only in terms of sound effects, but voice acting,
Nature.
a nature, fully orchestrated soundtrack, and the way they integrate all of it is just absolute perfection. Eric, this is one of I feel like the most underrated aspects of this game. It's damn near perfect, isn't it?
It's really, really good. I do have one question though. When you're talking to the NPCs, do you hear them from a different area, or is it my headphones? Like there were many times I would be in a conversation and somebody would be talking to me, and I thought it was coming from like behind me, and they were like to my right or left.
I've never.
Is it just me?
Yeah.
It's just you. Although I will say that at the very end of the game, and I mean the very end of the game, I went to speak to someone in the hub world, the kind of base camp, and I got through the entire conversation, but like the last sentence of the dialogue sounded muted for a second, like it wasn't as loud as the rest of it. But again, this is me at the end of the game, and every time I go back to base camp, I fully explore every dialogue option with every character just so I can get it all in. And that happened once, and it was about 2 seconds. But besides that, it's been perfect.
Yeah, it could be my headphones, the way the surround is working on my headphones, so that maybe that's what it is for me, because I'm using these things. I don't know, like I'm not a big fan of the earbuds, so I put these things on. These are the Conquest Pro. They're really good.
I'm not a fan of the earbuds either, so I put these Pulse 3D headphones on, and it does fit.
Yeah, I want to ask you about those too. Like, are they like? I want to ask you about, because I'm curious about the Pulse, but yeah, I'm gonna ask you about those.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, yeah, I was gonna say back to the audio, Wes, and to answer your question, I think the audio is fantastic. It's one of the best I've heard. The voice acting is really good too. Like all the characters' voice acting is really good, and then yeah, I mean the ambient sounds around you are amazing. The sounds of some of these huge mechanical dinosaurs, stomping around you, like when you get into like one of these with these mechanical dinosaurs that's big, like huge, and they're like stomping on something, you hear the rumble and you feel the rumble and you hear it. It's like it resonates. It's so good.
Yeah. Brad, you'll step out, and first of all, by the way, the footsteps are not too loud in this one. They're perfect. But you'll be in a cave or something, and you'll step out on the ledge, and you'll just be taking in this beautiful vista, which is your reward every time you summit from a climb and you want to rest your arms. You can stop and look at some beautiful vista that, you're right, looks like an oil painting or something. But while you're standing out there, you'll hear monsters in the far distance, like just very, very subtle noises, and like they do a very good job, even outside of that specifically, of making it feel like you're outside purely through sound design. What did you think about how they put the audio together here?
It's good. I mean, it's good. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's just not much bad I can say of it. Like,
it's just all really good, right?
It's a great game. Like, if I did not get sick playing it, I would have probably beat it. I wouldn't even care if I stayed up however long. I probably would have tried to beat it the whole time, because it's a really engaging game. Not only like the sound, but like we were talking about haptics earlier. One funny thing I noticed during one of the moments when there's like a rock avalanche was the haptics was shaking so hard that it was also like shaking my headset and made me feel like there was an earthquake happening a little bit. So like that was also pretty neat with the audio going on and stuff. But yeah, it's like a AAA game, right? Like it feels good. It feels good.
And I think that's the bottom line here, is that we're gushing over this, right? But how much of it is that this game is really that awesome, and how much of it is that we haven't had a AAA game for 3 years? You know what I mean? And now we're remembering what this means.
Well, some of us have had AAA games in VR, or at least the ones that play PC VR mods, and that's why I crave games like this.
Even those though are half steps compared to a fully built from the ground up AAA VR.
See, I would disagree. I feel like depending on the game, the gameplay loop and the content of the game is always reign supreme, and that's where 99% of games fail at.
Agreed.
Even this one, the gameplay loop or Half-Life Alyx is simple compared to so many games like Elden Ring or something.
I agree. I should have prefaced that. I'm speaking specifically in terms of immersion, like the way these games immerse you in the world. And again, a lot of that might have to. I mean, a lot of it is AAA production value, but I mean, again, we can't undersell the significance of the new features on this specific headset too.
Well, and they did the climbing right. Like, not only is it intuitive, but it works. Like, when you grab something, you move. Like, there is no jankiness to it, and there's a lot to be said about that. And like I said last time when GT was here, and I don't know why every climbing game doesn't do this, but give me something at the end of the climb to pull me up. I love how they do that, to where when I get to the ledge, I just grab that last thing and I'm up there. I'm not struggling to fucking push myself up there. They've just made it feel good, and that makes a huge difference. I don't know why so many climbing games that have climbing in it. I guess maybe because it's an afterthought, and this is actually a big part of it.
So Brad, how far have you gone into it? I want to ask you about some specific things, but you might not be deep enough in due to your issues. Just yet.
What was the big one? I'm not that far. I only I don't think I'm that far. I got past one of the bigger creatures basically just recently. All right.
So I'm not going to say much. I'm just going to tell you to keep going. You will be very rewarded. The game continues to get better all the way through the end, and the last level is the best level. So just keep going. A lot of the things that you appreciate about this game get taken up a notch before the end, and you'll see.
I'm digging the story too. I don't know you guys. I'm really into the story. Like I don't know the background to this. Like I don't know if you guys. I don't think you guys do either. Right? You guys weren't didn't play through the first couple of games. So, but I now this is making me want to go and see what is going on here. Like I want to see some of the backstory. So, man, I don't want to play those other games flat, but I want to know what's going on.
And you can play that one in Luke Ross.
Oh, that was terrible. That was like one of the worst Luke Ross mods I've ever done.
For what it's worth, the Luke Ross mod got a pretty significant update.
Check it out.
Yesterday.
Yeah,
everything just yesterday.
Yeah,
AER 2.0, right?
Wow.
Yeah. Every game supports it.
Okay, okay. I'm glad he's still supporting some of these older games and making sure they still work better.
Yep.
Well, they're constantly breaking too. I mean, not breaking, but you know how games get updates, and then that's the only thing that sucks about VR mods is, if the modder ever decides this is done, then you're kind of on a time limit until it eventually breaks.
So, allow me, if I may, to overturn the apple cart here and break up the love fest for this game. Let's talk about some of the things that are not so great, and specifically, everyone's waiting on me to start talking about blur and reprojection. We've talked that shit to death across YouTube for a week. What blows my mind and what I don't understand is how so many people rail on this reprojection, which was a minor issue for me. It didn't really hinder my gameplay experience all that much. But the fucking texture pop in happens from the beginning of this game to the end of it. It never stops. It is constant the whole time. It is distracting, and no one is talking about it. Eric, what the hell is going on here, man? I know you had to see this.
Yeah, I mean, you see it, but I don't know. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I guess...
Dude, it's fucking distracting. It's nonstop.
Yeah, I was going to say, I saw it. Like, I noticed it in the beginning, and I saw it everywhere in the beginning, but, as soon as I really started to get into the game, I kind of just lost it. It's a lot of times it happens like that with me. Like, I'll get a headset on that has, not a great field of view. And it bothers me for the first hour I'm playing, and then I literally quickly forget about it until I put another headset on that has a better field of view, and then it's back again. But if I'm just one of those people that can get into VR and start to let those things go away. So Yeah, I mean, I noticed it. You can't not notice it, but it just went away from me, and it didn't bother me after that.
It doesn't stop. Like normal texture pop in, you'll walk up to an item, you'll see the textures pop in, and then they're there. With this, you walk up to it, the textures pop in. You take a step back, they disappear. You walk back up to it, they come back. Like, it is constant. It is everywhere. It is distracting. Roots, when The Walking Dead Saints and Sinners got ported over from PC on the PlayStation VR, people crucified that game for having texture pop in like this. And this is exactly the same thing, and no one's even talking about it. What the hell is going on?
Too many good things to get distracted by. Yeah, the old PlayStation VR 1, you know, had its limitations, so you were probably thinking about a lot of other things. This is like everything else is so good that you forget about that. You know, it's funny because I even really forgot that I had even seen pop-ins, but now that you mention it, I have seen some, but it hasn't been that
I've
big
ruined
of a
it
deal.
for you now.
Yeah,
now
you're
not
gonna
gonna be able
to
to
get rid of it.
Son of a bitch.
Damn, how dare you,
sorry.
Wes?
I apologize to everyone. I've just broke the game for them. Brad, am I overstating this? Have you noticed this?
I have noticed it. Yeah, I mean
It's prominent, right?
It is annoying. Yeah, I do feel the reprojection for me is more annoying, but that is probably the second most annoying. Third most annoying thing from the game for me is the character you play. His quips make me cringe every time he opens his mouth. Like, I literally just want to die every time he talks. It's so God. It's like I'm watching a terrible Marvel movie or something. I can't take it. But yeah. Anyway.
Well, that too continues to progress as the game goes on. Let me tell you. The story takes a very interesting turn, but yeah. Anyway, I won't spoil anything for the people here who haven't made it there yet. Yeah, the texture popping was my main issue with it. There weren't many issues. That, you know, the reprojection is the thing most people seem to be focusing on. Really wasn't a big deal to me. But again, I started on PlayStation VR, and it wasn't an issue for me back then either. So, like, I think just maybe I have natural immunity. It's a way to go, right? Roots, the natural immunity. It's what.
That's the way I like to go, personally.
Heck yeah.
What else, guys? I mean, we've talked about the combat. What about this, Roots? One of the things that the original Horizon was known for was the crafting systems. Now, this is nothing like that, but it does add a little bit to the gameplay here, right? That you don't just pick up and find your things and keep going. That they make you build it, and there's a good variety of stuff. Like, again, if you're comparing this to a game like Half-Life Alyx, there's a lot more wide variety of weapons or tools. Well, I guess one weapon, but I mean, you have it's like in Death Style. You craft all these different arrows for it. You have a full palette of tools, and you have to make all of it. I thought that was pretty cool.
I think it's cool, and I think before you get too worried, Wolfie, this is the good kind of crafting. It's like not even hard. Like, it's, you know what I mean? You're just basically putting the parts in where you need to. And it does add something to it. It makes you feel like you find the parts and you're like, ooh, more electrical shit. You know, now I can make some more electrical arrows or whatever you want to call them. Because each one does something different, right? As far as like different types of character or things you're fighting. So I thought it was really cool. Really good.
Eric, have you been stacking those fucking rocks every time you find them?
I did the first one, and I like started to skip them after that. I'm like doing it because I thought the first one I thought you had to do to like progress, and I'm like, oh, I better do this. And then I realized that the second one, I'm like, I don't really think I have to do this because I can see where I need to go next. So I'm just gonna skip it because it's kind of a pain in the ass.
It gets to be a real pain in the ass, and I did not skip it. I did all of them.
Did you really? I knew you would. I knew, of course, you would.
Yeah. And like I said, it took me a while. It took me a while to finish this game. I think that fucking rock puzzle deal was a good portion of my playtime. What are we leaving out, guys? We talked about how beautiful it is, how beautiful it sounds, the climbing, the combat, the crafting. The story's pretty good. The environments, and not just beautiful, but I mean, there are times that I'm playing this game that it occurs to me okay, I need Lord of the Rings in VR because this is what it could
Oh
be.
man, can you imagine?
There are times that I'm playing and I think, okay, we need Tomb Raider in VR because this is what it could be. Roots, there are times I'm playing this game that I'm thinking we need Edge of Nowhere in first person because this is what it could be.
Yeah, yeah, this is definitely on that level. Actually, better, really. I think this is just it shows us what every game should be or is going to be eventually once we get all these AAA games in there. And I couldn't believe, I still can't believe how beautiful everything looks. Like you stop halfway. It's like what the climb should have looked like. You know, like the climb was supposed to be so beautiful, even the first one. And this is so much 100 times better because I find myself stopping in just random spots and looking because I'm like, oh my god, this just looks so beautiful. And
all right, so I'm going to give a very, very minor, benign spoiler. It's not really a story spoiler, just something about the game, just because I want to whet people's appetites for it. Specifically, Eric. Eric, the last level of this game, it's Uncharted, dude. It's like seriously Uncharted.
Yeah.
Like it looks like Uncharted, it plays like Uncharted. It's fucking cool, dude. I can't wait till you get there and hear what you think about it.
I can't wait because I've been wanting Uncharted for so long in VR. And when you just said comparison, you said Tomb Raider. This reminds me a lot of like Tomb Raider, especially like the first one, man. It was all about adventure climbing and platforming almost, and getting from one spot to another. And then you mixed in, you had some gunplay in there, but it was a lot about climbing and stuff like that, and going through and getting through environments, and it was super cool. And Tomb Raider would be a perfect game. Like if you just branded this Tomb Raider, it would be perfect. Like it'd be awesome.
Yeah. I mean, there's certainly parts of it that fit perfectly, right?
Yeah, make it just instead of a bow, make it guns, and it would be Tomb Raider, man. It would be so good.
All right, so Brad, it comes down to that magic question: $60, priced fairly, overpriced.
I mean, I'm not done with it yet, but
Right.
but I'm feeling like it's worth it so far. Like I'm getting a lot out of it. Like I mean, what was Bone Lab? How much did that cost again?
Bone Lab,
40, I thought.
40.
40.
Yeah, 40 for Bone Lab.
This is way better than Bone Lab for $20 more dollars. So, yeah.
So here's how I kind of thought about this, Eric. My initial impression was, I'm not mad at 60, but I would rather it be 50. But then it dawned upon me that this is 2023, and $60 is the new $50, and $70 is the new $60. And when you think about it in those terms, then it's probably priced right where it should be, in my opinion. What's your opinion?
I think it's shit game because it must be too cheap.
Yeah, dude. Why is it so cheap?
It's too
bro?
cheap. It must be garbage. Remember? Because you can't win. You just can't win, man. Because if they price this game at $30, they'd be like, "Wow, there's something wrong. I'm not buying that game." Why are they only charging $30? Remember what was that game they did that in?
Yeah, I think it was Pop One.
It was the spy game.
No,
it was
Defector.
Defector. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Defector
was
was
$20,
dude.
It was $20. People were like,
$20.
"Well, it's gonna be shit now. It's gonna be shit because it's only $20." This is $60, and people are gonna bitch because it's $60. And look, I don't want to pay $60 for games either. You know what I mean? And I bought this game, so you know what I mean. We all bought this game. Sony wasn't sending us copies of this game. I bought this game as part of the bundle, and I would have bought it every time. It's that damn good. It's worth it. And you know what? These games are going to cost more on the PlayStation VR 2. That's just the way it is. This is not going to be $15 mobile games, but the experiences are going to be way better, and it's going to be worth it. This is a true AAA game.
Imagine what this game would look like for $15. You know what I mean? Or the acting, or whatever it is. Like AAA games cost money, and it's good that it's priced what it's priced at. I think. I mean, it's fair, and it needs to. We need to be paying more for games, and before everybody freaks out, we need to be paying more for good games. Like really good games like this, and so otherwise we're not gonna see them. You're never gonna see this game for $30.
Half-Life Alyx came out 2 years ago with $60.
How much is it now?
That's
It's
right.
on sale, right, for 60?
It goes on sale for 30 all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
does
but
go
I
on
mean,
sale a
it's
lot.
still generally they've kept it 60, so because it is
Yeah,
worth it,
yeah.
you know.
If you want more games like this, then buy the damn game. That's that. I mean, that's really kind of it's a philosophy thing, but it's doesn't make it untrue.
Mr. Lord Beavis wants EverQuest in VR. I want World of Warcraft, and I want that to be my last VR game I ever play because I'll probably never stop playing it.
Probably. So yeah, this game is it's a bit of a tech demo. It's nerfed to be accessible for new players. It's extremely linear, but it has it's in its kind of own league with regards to production value. It's a legitimate adventure game. It takes concepts that have been done in VR and makes them new and original again. And it's all that I've played for the last week. Anybody that watches our channel knows that we don't do these full review discussions very often. We might do 1 or 2 of these a year, and when we do, it's because we play something that is just that good that we feel like we really need to give it the spotlight it deserves. So everyone here, I think, agrees that everyone should go buy this game. If you have a PlayStation VR 2 and you didn't get this game, then why did you buy a PSVR 2?
Wolfie says he's not interested in the game very much because of the gameplay. What would you say to Wolfie?
I would say Wolfie doesn't understand
You don't
how the
understand,
game
bro.
plays.
You need to
Which,
try
I mean,
it.
everybody's different. It don't have guns, so I
true.
mean, there's that.
Well, he says he's big into real archery, and so the fact that he can't pull it like the way that he normally would bother him, which is probably pretty accurate.
What can't you do?
Like, I guess pulling, like like he was saying, if you notice in videos, everybody like changes the way they pull a bow because there's somehow
They
it's
fixed it.
Did they?
They fixed that. Yeah.
Yeah.
From it, all right. So what he's talking about is to get a full draw on the bow till it clicks. During the demo, you kind of had to pull it like sideways because the draw distance was too high. What you can do though now is just stop where your natural draw distance is. It doesn't click right away, but like a split second after you stop, it'll click, and then it'll give you a full power shot at wherever's natural for you. So that they actually fixed that that issue. Yeah,
That's good.
Yep.
I want to make one final comment about, like, you know, we were just talking about hardware, and then we were also talking about this game. Like, it kind of goes with the hardware too, in a way. But like, you see what happens when a company, instead of pivoting to something like unproven, they double down on the VR and they bring something special to VR. Like, we're talking about the haptics, we're talking about the processing, the ease of use. There's still so much potential that can be pulled out of VR if you keep that as your focus, and it really does worry me to see some pivots from other companies, and this device proves to a lot of people that a VR focused device, you can do a lot of really cool stuff. So
yeah. And I know I agree with what you're saying there, because it's like the reason that they pivoted off of this is because they wanted to get to their has always been kind of their end goal, but they're moving too quickly to get there, and so they scrap everything when it starts to not work. And what's their solution? We need to go faster. Like, really? I think they need to read the room a little bit here, and maybe they do. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
All right, so I think that is going to wrap up Horizon for us. Man, what a great time! By the way, there's lots of extra activities and stuff in this. There is not a new game plus. It is a bit easy. I guess we didn't talk about how easy it is to avoid fail state in it, because they litter the whole game with health power ups. Like, they're literally laying on the ground. They're in every basket. When you're in a boss fight, they give you as many as you need, and they respawn. So it's hard to, like, if you try not to die, it's hard to die. Like, but it's still a lot of fun, and I'm pretty confident that this game will get updated with a hard mode that kind of takes some of those nerfing aspects out of it. But even until then, there's plenty of collectibles. There are challenges for you to go back and do. There's a challenge mode that you can go into, which I understand is pretty tough. And for the newbies out there, if you want to demo something, there's a dedicated safari mode. So
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Wes, did you try that?
I did not.
Oh.
I did not. But it is different than the intro to the game. It's something different.
Yeah.
So.
And it's something to put somebody into if they don't want to actually, you just want even climbing is going to be a challenge because that's just that guy. And you stick him on the safari ride. Good to go.
Yeah. There's no shark this time, I don't think, but there's other stuff. Anyway, again, that's going to wrap up Horizon and PSVR 2 hardware. And Brad, thanks for hanging in there, man. You've been a sport, a trooper, which I guess you know by now. You've been on our show enough times now that you know how it's going to be, right? Like, yeah. So I appreciate you agreeing to do this. As always, it was great talking to you, and I'm sure there will be many more conversations to be had about this platform and these games as we move forward.
For sure. Thank you. Thanks, guys. Have a good night, everyone.
You too, man.
You should just roll over under the bed right behind you and just go right to sleep.
That's probably gonna happen. I'm gonna put on my VR headset and sleep in VR chat. All right,
oh,
bye.
Oh, nice. I would want to do that.
All right. Good night, Brad. So, guys, we have a really quick. Well, maybe it won't be that really quick segment to go before we call it a show. But before we do that, I meant to announce the Light Brigade giveaway winners during the intro.
Ooh,
and
I might have won.
I think I did
I
win.
forgot to do that. So,
I'm going.
so as usual, we relied upon Wifotron 5000 to do the giveaway.
She's
and
the best Wifotron.
Yeah, as you can see here, everyone's name went down on this side of the paper if you entered for the North American copy, and on this side of the paper if you entered for the EU copy. Everyone's name got a number. We went to random.org, random number generator, and picked two numbers. So the winner for the North American version of the Light Brigade is none other than Mepper. Mepper is off, by the way, to a great start. He's been winning some stuff since the 2022 show, and some bangers. So congrats, Mepper. You now own the Light Brigade on PlayStation VR 2.
You're going to love it.
The winner of the EU copy is Ryan Kinney. Ryan Kinney. Congratulations, Ryan Kinney. You now own the Light Brigade EU version on PlayStation VR 2 as well. So congrats to our winners. You know what to do, or if you don't know what to do, hit me up on Discord, and we will get your key over to you pronto. So, congrats to the winners, and thank you for everyone who entered. Like this, outside of our year-end episodes, this is the most entries we've ever got for a giveaway. Like, everyone wants this game. So the rest of you now, go buy it because it's that good.
Yes. Make Eddie happy. Go buy it and then make yourself happy and play it. Because that's probably how it's going to go down.
Yep.
Oh,
Dee has been
they
lost
did-
in this game, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
that's like all she's been playing, and she has the Horizon bundle. I don't even think
I
she's
know.
played Horizon yet.
I don't know if she has or not either. I do know that Horizon is like one of her favorite games. And so like it's very odd that well, it's not odd because she was so
She has
excited
it.
to check it out to begin with, and then she just loved it.
She wants to do like a full sitting down, play it for like 7 hours straight, like thing. She doesn't want to like get into it a little bit, so I think she's waiting.
I gotcha. I guess she wants to finish it all in one shot.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, so I came home from work on Tuesday morning, and I knew that Monday that the performance update had dropped for the Light Brigade. And prior to that, I'd only played it like the 1 hour leading into our show, and I had to kill my run. If you remember, I had to just cut it off because I didn't have time to play anymore. And again, I knew an update was coming, so I cut the thing off, and I went back into it on Tuesday. Clean save, nothing saved over. It was a brand new game, starting from zero with the regular rifle. I came about this close to beating that game. Like, I made it all the way through all 5 of the first levels, all 5 of the second levels. I'm at the door from 3-4 to go into the 3-5 boss fight, and I get killed by the last enemy in that level.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Oh.
And I did it too. Like, you get 2 do-overs, right? Where you can die and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I lost those in level 2-2. It's like, so I played from there, went to the second boss and destroyed the second boss. Like made quick work out of the second boss. That was the first time I ever beat the second boss. And went from there thinking I'm going to die any minute as soon as I get into this next level. And made it through the first one, made it through the second one, somehow made it through the third one, and then almost finished the fourth one, and then finally I got hit. These enemies in the third world are just friggin' insane. They're accurate, they rapid fire, they run straight at you when they find you, and they have thick armor. Like it's pretty crazy, but I had a lot of fun in it. It was a great run and a great game.
That sounds cool.
Great.
I definitely,
Can't wait to get back.
yeah, it makes me want to go back in there.
Wolfart says I'm jittery on camera. Asks if I'm using reprojection. Are you getting sick, Wolfart?
Man, I didn't think
I
that video was going to trigger people so bad. Oprah doesn't even trigger people like that.
Right, so we're going to quality mode or performance mode from quality mode. Maybe that'll help things out a little bit. Anyway, so let's talk a little bit about Gran Turismo 7. Right off the top, my experience in this game is very limited. We're covering this week due to the overwhelming insistence of both of my co-hosts who said, this game is awesome. You have to play it this week. We're not going to wait anymore. So I said, all right, fine. I'll finish Horizon and then we'll get into Gran Turismo. The only problem is that I didn't finish Horizon nearly as quickly as I thought I would. I finished it like this afternoon. So after the Gamescast, I drug my wheel out. I got everything set up, and I did put I don't know, 90 minutes to 2 hours in it maybe. So I do have some real broad impressions of it. But we'll start with you, Ruuts. You've had a bit more time in it than I have, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is it really started with Wes asking me what a good filler game, or how'd you call it?
The palate cleanser.
Yeah,
Palate
palate
cleanser,
cleanser. And I said, well, this is my ultimate palate cleanser game because,
Dude, like, first of all, let me interrupt you because I have to take you to task with this. Like, yes, I get it. This could be used as a palate cleanser because you can play a race and put it down. But oh my God, am I intimidated by all the detail in this fucking game. There are so many settings and so many different aspects to it. I don't know how I'm ever going to learn all this shit, man. It's crazy.
Well, just trying to learn the driving is crazy. I mean, and not that it's very intuitive, and it's probably one of the best racing games I've played, besides VR. But man, I'm on the I think the second international, the A level international license or whatever. All I know is there's only 2 people left on my friends list that made it as far as I did, because everybody else, Smash, D, everybody's names have dropped off there. Now I think it's Skiva and I can't remember who the other person is, but there's only 2 other people. It's like people made it to a certain point, almost everybody, and then stopped because there's so many licenses to get. and you're learning different aspects of the driving. I just want to fucking race, man. But at the same time, you feel compelled to want to finish these licenses. And I don't know what these guys are doing, but everybody seems to be competing with times on them. Man, I got my trophy and I fucking move on, man. I'm trying to pass a test. I'm not trying to like beat the scores. But D is like when she was, she hasn't made it as far as just a spoiler. But she's like top of the list almost on every race. She's like kicking ass in there.
She's
so
really good. Her and Z-Storm. Are you friends with Z-Storm?
I don't think
on
so.
PlayStation? Hey, I'm friends with both of them, and I have beaten some of their scores, but mainly those two are ahead of me on of my list. It's like 1, 2, 3, them two, and then me, and then a couple of them I've beat them. But man, they are both really good.
Did you see the one in Colorado Springs? I almost saw myself there.
Yes,
but there is one. It's like a dirt track, and it was pretty cool.
You're in a truck, right? That was a truck race. That was super cool too. Yeah.
So I've only done 1, 2, 3, I think 5 races. So there's the one that you start with, and then you go to you get your whatever book or whatever, and then you go and do the circuit to unlock the 2 cars, and then you take that back, and then they unlock the other circuit to get the other 2 European cars. I've got first place in every race that I've raced. Am I good, or are they just that fucking easy?
The first ones are pretty easy.
Yeah, they get harder.
It gets the thing is they really are trying to, like with the licenses, teach you certain aspects, and so it'll be just like, I don't know if you did any of the licenses, but
I did one.
It'll just have you just go up and take a sharp turn or 2 sharp turns or whatever it is, and each one gets harder and harder, like as far as like the categories, and so it really is teaching you as you go. But there are some ones that, I mean, just I would imagine the tracks in general are going to get crazy because they only let you play a couple tracks in the beginning, right? One from each one, and then
there's a handful.
Yeah, you can't. They're not highlighted. You can see dots or where they would be, but you can't play them yet. I'm assuming you just got to wait till you unlock the multiplayer. Is my guess.
Johnny B in the chat says there's 4 times the content in GT7 than there was in GT Sport, and he had 300 hours in GT Sport.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, that's one of the things that, like you said, there's so much depth to it, not only in the settings, but like in everything. Like there's so many different things you can do. I mean, just the fact that you're talking about racing and then you go to a licensing place to get licenses, and then you've got the place where you got your car, buy your cars, the used car sales place, and then you got your garage, and there's other shit that I haven't even checked out. And so there's definitely a lot of content here.
Eric, I feel like having this wheel and pedals is a real advantage in this game. Not just in the enjoyment, which it is a pretty big boon to the enjoyment of the game, but I feel like
legitimately thinks that he is better.
Don't mean to cut you off. I would say these men think they're better than me, but
I feel like it's a competitive advantage because typically I pick up a big, massive AAA game like this, and it's 100% learning how to play. And then there's a lot of that going on here with the way the thing's structured. But when I get in the race, I'm driving, man. And like, this is something I've been doing most of my life. Would you agree with that? Do you think this is a pretty big strategic advantage or competitive advantage? I guess I should say.
It is. It's definitely. I think it's definitely a This game is great to play with the controller. I played it when I first fired it up. I played it that way just because I just wanted to see it. I didn't have time to hook my wheel up, and I was completely fine with it. I had a lot of fun in it, and the control was really good. But when I hooked my wheel and pedal up, it was just next level. It takes it to a completely different area.
Great. Hit it again, Ruuts. Hit it again.
This man legitimately thinks
Wait, hold on.
that he is better than us.
Hit it one more time because
this man legitimately thinks
you son of a
that he
bitch,
is
you
better
got
than
it.
us.
I had to do it, man. I want to do this. I want this. I watched Z-Storm. So Z-Storm has a wheel and pedal setup, and he has the shifter, and he was manually shifting in his stream, and I'm like, holy shit, this is like a game changer. I want to do this, man. I want to, like, I like driving a stick, man. And I miss
who else loves driving a stick?
My mom. Hell yeah, she does.
I know Wes.
Your wheel has paddle shifters on it, right?
It does. No, I know, but it doesn't feel right. I want to like get down. I want to grab that thing. Oh, here comes my mom. I want to grab that thing and I want to like twist on it. Seriously,
they don't have the knob, right?
And it's on sale, man. This used to be over $100, and I think I got it for like $50 some.
Wow.
Wow. That's actually.
Let me ask you
this. I've seen them for 70 a lot.
I just got it this afternoon. I haven't even tried it yet.
When I got to the dirt areas, or at least I noticed, a lot of bumpiness or whatever, and that was one of the things that I didn't care for with the wheel, on how it makes you feel like you're going over bumps. I just felt like the thing was just fucking shaking, and it to me it was like. And maybe it was just the wheel. Maybe it was the fact that it wasn't attached to a sturdy desk. I don't know. All I know is that it just didn't feel right. And did you guys feel that at all? Or did you get to any places like that?
There's some vibration to it, for sure. It doesn't feel one-to-one like a real car. I'll say that. But it does add. It does add to the immersiveness of it. Really, you appreciate it more in scenarios where you lose control. Like the first couple of races, I just stayed right on the track and I didn't have any problems, and it was just awesome. But when I got to like one of the last ones, I took a corner too fast and started fishtailing, and that felt like real, the way that the wheel handled during that. So I was pretty impressed with it in that respect. But yeah, it is a little shaky. I'll give you that.
Yeah,
it's not as bad as it used to be though, Ruuts. Like I remember I think you're thinking of like how maybe it was in Wreckfest or Dirt too.
Dirt Rally, yeah, it was like, horrible in Dirt Rally.
Like for me, I played like Wreckfest flat, and that freaking thing just it was almost out of control. You couldn't control the steering wheel; it was so bad.
Wow,
not that way here.
This is bad.
Yeah, well, Dirt Rally was my first experience with my wheel, and I was just like, fuck, man, what did I do? Why did I spend all this money on this? This is terrible. Way better experience with Gran Turismo.
Was it the guy screaming at you in your car, or was it the wheel? Because I think it was the guy.
Could have been the guy.
Fuck that guy, man.
The guy definitely had something to do with it.
Well, I'll tell you what. How good does the inside of the car look, and just the just all your everything. It's just so, it looks so beautiful, right?
Yeah, like I said it earlier, like people are lauding Horizon as this visual feast, and it is beautiful, but it's like Brad said, it's more of an artistic type of beautiful. This game is friggin' photoreal and colorful, like the cars, the environments. There's a wide gamut of colors being spent here, and the contrast super high. Eric, even with the display turned down. Like, again, mine's not all the way up. I took it down a couple notches.
Right.
Super bright and colorful and just jaw-dropping beautiful.
This game is awesome, man. I have just completely... I'm not into racing games at all. I've never... Like, I've always wanted to be into racing games, and I usually try them, and I'm like, I'm done. Like, I don't know. Just, they never bring me in like I thought they would bring me in. And even in VR, like, I thought I was going to use this wheel a ton. I've used it like two or three times, and a couple of times most of the time it was on a flat game, and I just didn't enjoy it. And literally, I've been thinking about getting rid of it. Like, if this didn't happen, I mean, I've been looking at it for the better part of a year, and I haven't used it. And now it's like sitting right here. I'm not gonna move it. It's here. It's gonna be here. When I'm ready to play, I turn, put my headset on, plug it in. I'm ready to go. I'm driving, man, and it just feels so damn good. This game has like. It just brought me in, man. I'm so involved with this game. I wanted to go beat those times. I've spent so much time in this game, just in the first 3 licenses, just trying to beat people's times. Like, there were races. There are some of those the license races that I've done 50 times probably, trying to beat D and Z Storm's times, because I'm like, I gotta be better. I gotta be better.
D, Z Storm, Lethal Weasel VR.
Coming for you.
Coming.
Okay.
It's coming.
Please add me if you haven't already. I need to see where I stack up here.
It's a complete package with this game. It's everything from the visuals are stunning. You really feel like you're in it in VR. The cars handle great. When you lose control, you did something wrong. You can feel it. Man, I just love every little bit of it, man. And the wheel just adds to it.
BD's nonstop with the mom jokes tonight. Like he keeps on going.
Well, you
It
guys.
says
Oh, go ahead.
that he got rammed by Mike in GT7, and
Oh my God.
I felt him ram me. Do you know who else likes to be rammed?
My mom.
Oh yeah, she does. Well, I'll tell you guys both, you're screwed because IN7 says getting a wheel and chair is definitely a gateway drug. I'm already thinking of getting a proper sim setup soon. So you guys are there.
Dude,
you guys are right
I've
on the
thought about
edge,
it.
man.
I thought about getting the chair and getting the whole, because right now I'm just using my computer chair, and I thought about getting the chair.
Yaw 2. Get the Yaw 2.
I don't wanna go
Sean's
that far.
yeah, Sean's playing in that y'all too, man, and it looks next level, bro. Like
It does.
imagine
It
if you
looks
could
cool.
imagine if you could feel the G forces pulling on you while you were playing this game. Like it would be
Next
it'd be
level.
pretty close, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, well, let's talk about this fucking intro for a minute, first of all. Like it's beautiful, right? Like it starts with the entire history of automobiles, like from the very first Model T all the way through modern day. But it goes through the whole fucking history, and you can't skip it. Did I just not know how to skip it?
You can't skip it, not the first time.
You may be able to skip it, and this is why, because I went to jump in there today, and I was sitting there with my controllers in my hand because I forgot that I can't play it with those controllers. I have to play it with the PlayStation 5 controller, and I'm hitting the button, and I'm like, "Are you motherfucker? I'm gonna have to go through this thing again." And so I sat there forever going through it again, and then I grabbed my controller and hit the circle button, I think it is, and it skipped it. So if you went into it with your PlayStation 5 controllers in your hand, you're not going to be able to skip it. But if I surmise that if you do with the PlayStation 5 controller, you will.
You can't skip it the first time. Every time after the first time, you can skip it. Even
Oh, so did you try with the other controller?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because it was freaking me out, man. Because I was doing it right before our show last week, and
This week.
I'm like, I just need to get in there. Let me get the fuck in there, man. I'm like trying everything. I like had my regular controller. I had these controllers.
So
I was
you
pressing
weren't
every button I
enjoying
could.
it.
I would have enjoyed it more if I had time. Like it was kind of cool. I thought it was cool to see
It was cool.
the cars go through time. But then when you're pressed for time, I'm like, just freaking get this over with.
It made me a little sad.
Really?
It's just because, okay, so you're going back in this grand scheme of time when art and like humanity actually was building beautiful cars and beautiful everything, and then everything just went downhill, like 60s and 70s. It's like, let's make everything ugly and boxy and horrible, and it's like humanity for whatever reason just kind of sidestepped. But I mean, it was cool, but it was like a nostalgia sad, like, you know what I mean? Like, look how far we've gone downhill.
It was a simpler time, right?
It was a simpler time, but it evoked emotion in me. So that tells me that it did a good job doing what it was supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I'm kind of at a loss where to go here from this, because again, I've just barely scratched the surface, but I can tell you I'm blown away with the sheer production value, the immersiveness of being able to play this in VR. I think it's a safe thing to say, Roots, that even not just regarding this game, but the one we just talked about, people said leading up to the launch of PlayStation VR 2 that this could be the moment that we get PS5 games in VR. And we kind of thought that it might be, but I mean, you kind of have to guard yourself against having those kind of expectations. But I say in the case of these games we're talking about here today, these are absolutely PlayStation 5 games in VR.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. As a matter of fact, perfect example. I have the PlayStation 4 version disc. I had to buy the $10 PlayStation 5 upgrade to be able to play the VR version. And it definitely is. the graphics, everything about it is AAA, and it's definitely probably the best racer I've done. I'm like MASH. I'm not big into racers, but this one is done right and it feels right. And like you said, even for myself, I'm not using the wheel, but like when I would skid and like around a dirt corner or whatever, and you start to lose your tail, it's intuitive to spin your wheel the opposite, especially for somebody that like me that deals with snow and ice and stuff. So even though I was using the joystick, it still was intuitive and it still felt like it should feel. Like I felt like I was losing control of my car and I stopped it, and it just feels it is what the game thing says on the thing. It's the real driving simulator. It
Yeah.
is.
That's what I really loved about it, because obviously I'm not a racing guy either. Like, that's not my thing. And while technically that's what you're doing here, you don't start the game with them putting you in a race car, right? Like, they're putting you in normal cars, like compact cars even, just to start off with. And then you move from there to like classics, but again, still just normal cars. And you got to work your way up to the muscle cars, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I was racing a Lamborghini actually earlier. That thing is very difficult to control, I'll tell you, at high speed. For sure.
The license, that's where the licenses will help you. And if you go through and you do try and beat some times in the licenses, it will help you learn how to race, because like there's certain things that you could probably just get through if you got a trophy, but did you really, really learn it, or did you just get lucky on that one
I got
turn,
lucky.
right? You got through it. So, but if you try and try and try over and over and over again, it helps you later, because then those lessons that you're learning there, and if you do it 50 times, you're going to remember it, and it's going to be easier to do it once you're actually, in races. So I like the way they kind of like get you in by doing the licenses, and they make you want to beat your friend's time, so it makes you want to play it in a certain way.
Well, let me ask
I
you
did a pit
this.
maneuver.
There's like 6 licenses, right? Is that Marineverse test versus this game's test?
At least this is fun though. At least I know,
true.
like if made Marineverse where it was fun for me to go through the test, I guess I would be like, okay, let's do it. But God, that was monotonous and boring and tedious and the worst thing ever.
Yeah, this thing I just want to race multiplayer, but I'm like 3 licenses away, and it takes a while. And I might.
Oh no,
go
you
back.
don't have to do that. No, you.
Somebody said you
the
had to do all those.
licenses. The licenses don't get you multiplayer. The cafe gets you multiplayer.
Oh Jesus!
So what you want to do is go into the cafe and then open. They give you these little menus, and you have to go do these certain races to get to a certain level in the cafe. And as soon as you do that, you open all the multiplayer up. It's actually kind of early on if you do it. To like I did the first couple of licenses just so I could learn how to race, and then I went over and did the cafe just so I could open up the multiplayer. So yeah, you're probably not far.
The cafe's all that I've been doing. Like,
I didn't even know there was a cafe.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's crazy.
I thought that was kind of my direction of what I was supposed to do, so that's what I've been following.
I just heard everybody talking about the passing test, so I just assumed that was the way to go. How cool does the courses look, especially at night, and in the just everything about it? It's super cool.
I haven't done that yet. Like, it's all been daytime
it's cool.
for me. So
Yeah.
So I imagine that, like, when it rains, the track conditions change, and it's harder for your tires. Yeah.
Yeah, there's
you
actually
have to brake
tests.
so much earlier. Yeah, right.
Tests for wet conditions.
I did a pit maneuver. The first time that I got first place, I was coming down the stretch with the car that was ahead of me, and I just nudged his rear quarter. I didn't wreck him, but it was just enough to make him fishtail out and let me take it down the stretch. It was pretty cool.
You know who loves it when you nudge their rear quarter?
I do.
My mom! You know who loves it when you take it down the stretch?
My mom! You know who hates it when you finish first?
My mom! Oh, she does.
And finish last.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So this is obviously going to be one that we come back to once we have 100 hours in it, and it probably won't take all that long, honestly.
We haven't even raced yet. Like, we need to race. I want to race you guys. Like, we should do that. Like, we should
community race.
Yeah, I mean, we could do it. We could get a whole bunch of people in there and do it.
What's the max?
I need practice, but yeah.
Do you know?
I don't know if there is. I mean, it's got to be a lot. I mean, because then normal races, you can have 20, 30 cars, I think, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's something like 16 or 20, I think.
It's crazy.
Anyway, more to come on this, guys. Am I missing something? Obviously, I don't have the experience that you guys have. Is there something that we should be touching on that is just over my head right now?
Well, everybody says the Grid Legends gameplay was so amazing. Do you think it's as good as it? Probably not. Probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I'd like to say that I'll come back and tell you all how good the controller steering is. With the gyro steering.
Yeah, ain't
But
gonna
I don't think
happen.
I'm ever. It's be the same thing for me, like saying that I'm going to tell you how the flat mode is. Like, I'm not going back now. Like,
Yeah, so, yeah, no. I'm glad I did it the other way because I did it just to see, because I had to, and then I said, oh, that's pretty good actually, and then I went to the wheel and pedal, and that is what completely has hooked me, man. I'm like I had a tough time getting back into Horizon because I fell in love with this so much. That's all I've really been playing. So
yeah, it's really fun. The best experience I've had in a racing game, and I've only played it a little bit. So
You guys are saying I'm slumming it with the joystick, is what you're saying.
you should at least You should at least try out the gyro steering.
I might just do that. I have not felt compelled to, but like Mash said, the driving with the joystick feels so good.
it's better than most. If you can think of other games that you've played flat and used the joystick, that's where I have really disconnected from most racing games. I don't like it, and I actually thought it was really good here. So I thought it was well done. You don't get that thing where you do with a joystick where you're constantly weaving in and out because you move the joystick a little bit and it moves you too much. That's what I always hate about it. Like when you're trying to take a turn around a track with the joystick, it's like the oversteer with the joystick is always too much. And it didn't seem to be that way here. I thought it was controlled pretty good.
Yeah.
Dee says she's addicted to Light Brigade right now. It has like 20-ish hours in it. I think all in all, it's probably right around what I have in it between PC and PlayStation combined.
Distracted says you should try Dirt 2 on PC, Wes. Dirt 2
What's
Rally.
PC?
Yeah, PC VR. Well, I'll tell you what. That's opening a whole can of worms. I actually would be interested to see your guys' experience of trying to use this with PC VR because it just was a nightmare. I think it was Assetto Corsa was the worst trying to set that up, but I don't know. I can't remember.
I did it with Dirt 2 when I got the wheel. I didn't really like it.
Well, the game.
I tried to play. It was Dirt Rally 2. I said Dirt Rally. It was actually part 2. That was the first thing I tried with my wheel, and I could not stay on the fucking road at all. Like it was just running straight off the road over and over again. Like, is this thing broken? What the fuck? And,
you just need to listen to the guy screaming at you. He's telling you where to go, Wes, apparently.
No, I'll tell him where to go.
He's just obnoxious.
Yeah, maybe Distract. We'll do that one day when we get back to PC. But I'm still on my PSVR 2 honeymoon, and it's going to take Zalubo Productions to get me out of it. So we have miles to go before we get there.
Corporate Zombie says you need a fixed chair, a well-fixed wheel, a pedals that can't slip around, then a motion rig, then 5-point safety harness, the wide field of view headset, and then direct drive wheel. You know the direct drive wheel is the one you want, and it's super expensive. And if for some reason its regulator didn't work properly, it would snap your arm. It's got so much power that it would literally fucking break your arm.
I was talking to Sean from Rendered Reality tonight because we brought him and Tyler into Ghost of Tabor, and he told me because we were talking about. He's like, I think I'm going to go buy the Fanatec. Which I think the Fanatec is the belt drive or the
direct
one, right?
Direct drive.
Direct drive.
Yeah, it's got so much power in it that literally would snap your arm if it didn't work properly. That's crazy.
Man, I want to snap my arm.
I don't want to snap my arm, but I want that power for sure.
They have a Gran Turismo version of the Fanatec, and that's what he was talking about. There's actually the Fanatec has a Gran Turismo Pro version.
Well, if you think about it, because you guys have enough experience, even with your short time with the wheel, what you experience with this game is not what you would experience if you went to an arcade and played a racing game, because the racing wheel they have is probably direct drive, or I would imagine, or direct whatever it is.
It's just a controller, pretty much. The ones I've played in the arcade, it's just a wheel controller.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just know that that they say that's the standard, that it's the best. So
All right. Well, I'll have to sell my haptics vest and sell at least one of my headsets, probably two of them, and then we might be able to get close to buying.
I mean, how much does that thing cost, the Fanatec?
It's like $1,000 or something.
Is it
like
really?
That. Yeah.
well, and now granted we're talking about somebody that's already got one. But if I'm going $1,000, I might as well spend another $1,000 and get a yaw too.
Yeah,
There you
really.
go.
What's
You
the
know.
yaw? But what's the yaw 2 going for now, though? I know they're out of Kickstarter, and I think it went up to like $4,000.
Did it really?
Oh, fuck that.
Thought it was a
It was
couple grand.
Kickstarter. Wow, that was the Kickstarter price, but they went. I think it's gone out of Kickstarter, so I don't think it's. I think it's expensive now. To the point where they're not even fulfilling all their Kickstarter backers yet because they are making more money selling it new now to people for $4,000.
Oh, that's shady, man.
I thought
Ty-
2,000
Tyler-
was expensive.
So Sean got his, and then Tyler, who did his Kickstarter a little bit after Sean, has not gotten his yet, and they're selling all these new ones. Like he could go in right now and buy one and get one right away, but he'd have to pay like $4,000 and get a brand new. And so they're fulfilling those orders first.
That's shady.
Assholes.
That's shitty. And then
Yeah,
they freaking shared one of Sean's videos. So Sean was playing it the other day and he did a video on it, and then all of a sudden I saw it was tweeted out by freaking Yaw. Like, that's balls.
Roots if Switchback enables that that type of feedback to where you can use it with y'all, I might have to go with the $4,000.
I'll tell you what, that would be amazing. Any roller coaster, because that's the thing about roller coasters in VR. They're cool, but they're only visual. But if you could actually get the turns and the tilts and all that stuff, man, that's next level.
Oh my God, this thing's expensive.
Yeah.
The premium bundle is $969, 969 euros.
For the wheel?
Yeah, for the
Yeah, you're talking the best of the best though, bro. Mash
break your arms, Eric. It'll break your arms.
Yeah,
son.
you know, Mash was considering it. If he's saying, "Oh man, it's a lot of money," he was like thinking, some $500.
Eric, you could sell that Quest Pro, bro.
That's true.
I could sell the Quest Pro and get it. I could
Easy.
sell my Quest Pro and my other wheel and get that and a motion or like a chair for it.
Yaw too. Oh wait,
Not for $4,000.
that's crazy. You could sell your
Now
your
I have
fancy
to look up
monitor.
Yaw too. Now I need to look up the Yaw too and see how much it actually is going for.
Don't even look, man. Don't.
No, I
Did
mean
you-
just to
wanna
see
know.
what
Did
it's
you look
actually
it up?
like. Yeah, now the Pro Edition is $3,080.
That's it? Man, that thing's cheap, dude. No, just
You can
kidding.
pick up an original Yaw for $1,600 though.
That's it?
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool. You better have a dedicated space for that. What would your wife, either one of your wives, say if you they came home from wherever and you just were putting it together and be like, "What the fuck are you doing, dude?"
I would be a dead man, bro. Be a dead man.
Yeah, it's my wife would be like, "Get up and let me try it."
Yeah, right.
That's what she would say.
She's like, let me try it, and then we're taking it back.
And then she would vomit and say it was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it'd be cool.
You know who's a big fan of all this stuff and does these motion rigs? He builds his own motion rig. Is Techno Glitch.
I know, it's crazy, dude. Tech, you need to come build me one, bro.
Seriously, go to like Colorado, build Roots a Yaw 2, basically.
Yeah, I'll buy you an ounce of weed, dude.
Sweet.
It's like, dude, it's like so much, not that much, so much less money there. Additional $400 for shipping. Crazy, dude.
They're nuts, man. They're nuts. That's $3,500 for a Yaw 2 with shipping.
Well, okay, but if you've got if you're somebody that's got money, that's nothing, dude. That's a drop in a bucket. You know,
Yes.
not me. I was struggling to get the PSVR too. So, but
I'm
crazy.
happy with my setup now, especially I got this thing. I'm ready to roll, man. I'm perfectly happy with it.
Why don't we go do that, guys? We have been on the air for
3 hours.
well over 3 hours at this point. So why don't we wrap it up, call it a show. Thank everyone in the chat for hanging out with us. Ask those who haven't already to please click the subscribe button, give it a thumbs up, ring the bell. If you like the video, we got more where this came from, baby. We're getting better every week. So be sure that you click all the things if you want to stay up to date with our VR coverage. And it's not all PlayStation VR. It's going to be for a little while. But we cover all platforms here, and we're going to continue to do that going forward. We go where the games are, man. And if there's games on the other platforms, we're going to cover those there too.
Vertigo 2 coming soon.
Vertigo 2, yeah.
Yeah, March,
absolutely.
something in March, right? Is
Yeah.
it March?
Yeah.
In March?
Of course, if you want to do a little something extra, as we mentioned at the top, great things we're doing with our donations. So you can support us on Patreon. $3 per month is all we ask. You get access to our show notes every week. You get insider updates. You get exclusive content. Yeah. Sorry. Wife was making sure we did the giveaway. You get exclusive content, all for less than $1 per week, and then you get to go to bed with a smile on your face, knowing that Ruuts has a PlayStation VR 2 because of you. So shout out! We got two new ones this week, Ruuts. Did you know that?
I did not. Actually, I saw the
Nice.
new outro. So thank you. Well, I guess the future thanks you for whatever else we use the money for. Probably some
Heck yeah.
traveling for Wes is what my guess would
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. I've just bought a plane ticket to go to San Francisco.
Nice.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
well,
did.
not the San Francisco part, but nice that you're making the trip.
Yeah. Thanks to everyone. Again, something that I probably wouldn't be able to do if it weren't for the support that everyone gives us. So
That's awesome.
thanks to the people who do the super chats. Thanks to the patrons. You all rock, and we love you. But you don't have to have money to hang out with us. Oh, no, my friends. You can hang out with us on Discord for free. There's an invitation link down below. All you have to do is click on it, and you will be magically transported into our community, greeted at the door by a host of dozens of people, or maybe just a couple, depending on what time it is. But that's where we hang out. It's where we talk about games. It's where we get together, play games. We talk about other stuff too. And it's a family environment. And by family environment, I don't mean that you can bring your kids. I mean that everyone's cool to one another. Leave the kids at home.
Yeah. Kids stay home, and you can hang out with my mom. Maybe.
It's
Who
true.
doesn't want to hang out with your mom
That's true.
or my mom or anybody's mom?
Yeah.
Anyway, with that said, friends, I would like to thank you all once again for watching. For Roots and Eric and Brad, I'm Wes. We'll see you Sunday, friends. Bye.
Take it easy.
See you later.